All right. Figured I'd at least unmute the mic while I'm making sure everything is set up properly. How's everybody doing tonight? Or today, depending on what time it is where you happen to be watching this. I pray you're all doing well. Hope everything's going excellently for you all. Let's see, who do we have here so far? We Broken Suba's here, Josh Quinn Andrews, Kira H, Jessica Nugent's here, and a host of other people that haven't commented yet. Cool. It's good to see all of y'all. How are you enjoying the series so far? Are you digging it? So tonight, let's go ahead and it is after 9 o'clock. So let's go ahead and get this show on the road, shall we? I think we shall. Good to go. Hello, beautiful people. Wait for that to pull up here on my screen. Make sure everything's good to go. Highlight what we're going to be talking about tonight, which is conscientiousness, and then make sure I've got the scrolling capability here. I do. Excellent. And just in case I have found out that my computer repeatedly locking up over the last several months has been because of Google Chrome. I finally diagnosed that the problem was Google, unfortunately. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up on my Google Drive as well so I can continue to talk, even if my computer, thankfully, when my computer freezes, the sound still works. So that is that. Let's go here, here. I'm going to try not to click too many things, though, so that way we won't run into too many issues, or hopefully any issues, truthfully. While y'all are letting me know how you're doing, I will go ahead and get all this pulled up, and boom, got it. All right. Josh Quinn says, I'm digging it. Excellent, man. I'm glad to hear that. I hope it's ultimately beneficial to all of you. The purpose behind why we're discussing, and that's a good way to start tonight, what will be the last one of these live streams that we do in the public. The next two, because there's two more sessions on this topic. The next two will be actually broadcasted privately with our members of the Good Life Playbook VIP program. So that's a bonus that we get, that we're giving to them, to the folks in the VIP program, to say thank you for your trust and faith in us to be able to support you. So we're gonna continue doing that. So the purpose of these discussions, the reason why I brought you all together, is I know that there are a number of people across the world, young and old, who are hungry for a way of living and a life that is greater than you may be experiencing right now, or at the very least, you want to see your life continue to have this kind of what one of my mentors used to call a positive trend line, right? And the type of content that I create has always been for a small group of very hungry people, right? I don't make things with a lot of flair and or pizzazz, as I've heard it called. I make things very down to earth, very practical, and very pragmatic for people who actually want to achieve some level of how they define success. And I believe that the root of success, and ultimately the root of your happiness, because I hear so many people talk about they want to be happy, but they're not willing to put in the struggle that's required for true happiness. They're not really willing to make the sacrifices that bring actual happiness about. And the reason why I know that is because that's been my life at some point, where I said I want these things, I want to accomplish these things, I want to do these things, I want to experience these things, but I didn't want to put the work in that was necessary to get me to those places, right? And unfortunately, some people's happiness, the way they define it, is in not having any strain or any struggle, right? But that's how you grow. That's how you get happy, is in the perpetual growth, right? So I understand that the root of all of that happiness, the root of your faith, the root of your success, the root of joy, it all starts with self-awareness. It all starts with the understanding of self, right? Because when you can come to grips with who you are, the next phase, because there's phases to this is just the beginning of the discussion. This is laying the foundation and the bedrock, right? There's the helping you lay the foundation of self-awareness, that on top of that you can build self-compassion first. Then you can start to talk about self-esteem and self-confidence and all these other things that you need to create this layer cake um, of success and happiness. And that's, too many people are looking for those things in the wrong areas. Right? And not only looking in the wrong places, but you're not starting at the beginning. You're not starting with self-awareness. Right? Everything that you want to accomplish starts with self-awareness. And I've always said that the content that I've produced on this channel has been centered around what Sun Tzu said in The Art of War, that the person that knows their enemy and knows themselves would never be endangered, would never have to fear the outcome of 100 battles, right? And the point, I paraphrase that to say, if you know yourself and you're constantly growing in the knowledge of self, because you don't just get to know your personality type and then that's it. Like, this is a lifelong process of self-awareness, right? And I'm equipping you with the tools to better understand that and to keep developing your understanding and going deeper and deeper and deeper into the understanding of self. And then having an intimate understanding of the challenges you face, because we're not talking about actual warfare, it's a metaphor in this case. Understanding the problems that you face, the challenges that you face, and an intimate understanding of why they are the way they are. You're never going to fix a problem if you don't know why the problem is the way it is. Because if you don't know the root causes of your problems, then you're going to try to fix it in a way that's not effective, right? It's like if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And so it's everything that I'm doing here is centered around helping you start the process of self-awareness so that you can use that and continue to add to that foundation all the things you need to even understand what's going to make you happy. Because I think when we're talking about happiness and success, it's impossible to understand what's going to make you happy without an understanding of who you are. And some of that comes through experience. Some of it can be taught to you. Some of it can be found in these personality inventories and the other tools I've given you all for self-awareness, and even tools beyond what I've given you from other people. That's a start. And as you start to add on all of those other pieces beyond just the personality stuff, right? So your values, your motivations, all these things that make you kind of who you are. And the more you can be aware of that person, the more you can be aware of what makes you happy. And some of that's going to come through experience, right? It's not all classroom lesson discussion, take a personality test and you have the world figured out. You know, and I've kind of railed against that online where people will take any personality test, pick a thing, and then they just fall into an overly simplified, okay, that defines me and this defines you. And I like those simple ways of describing ourselves, and because you're a Democrat, you're supposed to be pro-choice, and you're a Republican, so you're supposed to be pro-life. And we end up using these tools as kind of weapons of mass destruction, weapons of self-destruction, where they become a prison instead of a tool to help you better understand yourself. And that's one of the things I want to help you get past. Because without the self-awareness, you can forget about it. You know, I posted on Facebook today that if you do not know your life's purpose, you can forget about being happy and successful. And if you don't know you, you can forget about knowing your life's purpose. And I think the first stage of understanding your life's purpose is to understand you. Right? Does it have to be the hexaco or the big six or the big five? No, it doesn't have to be. But I think this test is definitely a good start. So Alyssa says, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this. I score very high in this area. Cool. Kira says, yes, I'm digging it. My scores are very similar to yours, so this will be easy. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so what are we talking about tonight? We're talking about conscientiousness. And reminder, if you guys came in after I left the comment, so we've got conscientiousness to cover tonight, and tonight is going to be the last live public broadcast we do. When I do openness to experience and altruism, those are going to be shot in a private live call with our VIPs in our Good Life Playbook. So if you want to get this complete program and then have access to it forever after the fact, don't drag your feet, link in the description. You need to go join the Good Life Playbook. And if you want to be on the next live calls, you need to join the Good Life Playbook VIP program, which you can, when you go through the process to sign up for the Good Life Playbook, it includes an email between you and I handle all this personally. I'm not doing it automated. I want to make connection with every person that decides to link up with us. And in that email process, we can talk about the VIP program if you want to be on the next live call. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to really spend a whole lot of time talking about that tonight. I want to get into the meat of what we are discussing, which is the domain of conscientiousness and the facets of organization, diligence, perfectionism, which you guys have heard me talk about a lot on my podcast, and prudence. And I think maybe more than any of these, you'll see tonight why scoring high or low doesn't necessarily map to high equals good and low equals bad, right? Because you're going to see tonight how some of these run amok can actually cost you and be detrimental to you. It can be a liability instead of an asset. All right, so let's talk about conscientiousness. What is it? Let's not make it harder than it is. Let's just read it right here on screen. Persons with very high scores in conscientiousness in the conscientiousness scale organize their time and their physical surroundings, work in a disciplined way toward their goals, strive for accuracy and perfection in their tasks, and deliberate carefully when making decisions. Okay? Conversely, persons with very low scores on this scale tend to be unconcerned with orderly surroundings or schedules, avoid difficult tasks or challenging goals, are satisfied with work that contains some errors, and make decisions on impulse or with little reflection. Now, this is going to be a really interesting one because immediately you're reading that saying, well, if I'm a person who turns in all my work with no errors, I'm amazing. Well, I'll tell you why that's not necessarily the case depending upon what it is you're doing. And I'll use a personal story from the beginning of my career that I've always used to help people when they struggle with perfectionism, where perfectionism becomes the enemy instead of the helper, right? So let's see, how did I score on this? I know I scored above 4, so I'm not crazy high, and I mean obviously I'm higher than the median in Dagnabbit. I'm higher than the median, I think, in all of them except for perfectionism. And then you can see the two that I score extremely high in, and the other two where I'm just kind of like, I'm all right. But I score a 413 out of 5. And then the range here is from 2.72. The average, if you will, ranges from 2.72 to 4.6. This is where the bulk of people live, right? And you can see that up here. The 80% of people score between those two. So if you're somewhere in this range, you can usually assume, okay, I'm kind of normal, right? So if you're looking at my score, I am kind of normal for the most part. But you'll see that I'm out of tolerance in terms of being normal in 2 of them. And we'll get into that here in the discussion. Let's start with organization. Scroll down here. So the organization scale assesses a tendency to seek order, particularly in one's physical surroundings. Low scores tend to be sloppy and haphazard, whereas high scores keep things tidy and prefer a structured approach to tasks. Now, this is where you'll start to see in my case. And so when I'm going through my scores, just if you've taken the test, look at it, look at your scores and try to wrap your head around what that means for you, or just listen for things that resonate with you and what I'm saying, whether it's you're the opposite of what I am or you're the same or you're, somewhere in between those two. Right? So I score above the median for organization, which means I'm a relatively organized person, but I'm not off the charts, right? I score right about in the middle of the 80th percentile, right? With a 3.75. So like if you look around, like if you look in the picture, it looks like I'm pretty organized, right? I got my books. My books are usually organized on shelves by how I want to interact with my library. Like I've got spiritual books over here. I've got like finance books are up here. Like a lot of the scientific stuff's up here. My textbooks are actually spread out wherever they will fit because they're large, right? And then you've got my most important books directly above me, and some of those aren't up there because they're on my desk or I'm reading them presently. And then on my desk, it looks cool. I got one of my favorite video games here. I just got this last week, and have been playing. I'm loving this game. I beat it, and now I'm playing it on the hard difficulty. I was actually playing it before we started streaming tonight. But you'll see some of the books that I'm working through here, but that also looks cute on a YouTube stream. But, if I take all this stuff down, you'll see there's a little bit of a mess back here, right? It's not, we're not perfect. Right, we got games. There's a book half open. The Mormons came to my house, and I talked to them for like 2 hours. They gave me the Book of Mormon. We were having a discussion about faith and God and stuff like that. It was a great discussion. I had a blast. I wanted to do a podcast about it, but I didn't really know how to frame it. But if you look back there, it's not terribly organized, right? I'm organized enough, and if you look at what's going on in front of me here, you've got my dinner, my snack after I had my dinner, the 2 dirty plates. There's some trash right here and here from the fruit drink that I was drinking probably over a week ago. Right, I've got more books. I've got a tape measure because I was measuring my body fat percentage. Right, so it's not perfect. And I'm organized, but not crazy. And if you look at the floor, it's kind of bedlam back here because I'm occupying a space that is 1/4 the size of the office I was in before I moved into this office. Right, the office I had before, I gave up my office and more of the room tied to my office so that my kids would have more space to spread out. Because my kids, when we moved my mother-in-law in, we wanted her to have her own space. So the extra rooms that we had went away, and so I wanted my kids to have more space. So I gave them my office space, which we just converted into a bedroom. And then the other room down there, we also converted into a bedroom and then kind of put them together so all the brothers could hang out together because they're still relatively young. Mm-hmm. And so it's it's not completely, or in fact, I need to dust. I spilled some peanuts on my desk here yesterday that I need to clean up. So it's not perfect. Right? And so, but if I were a clean freak, if I was a 5 out of 5, all this would be organized and dressed right, dress. So I'm moderately organized. I'm kind of the Donald Trump of organization. I know that's a weird reference, but this was long before he was ever the president. This was before everybody completely hated him. He was doing an interview, I can't remember where, just talking about like how organized are you. He's like, well, I'm organized, but not terribly so. Like there's messes on my desk, but I know where everything is. If I have to get to it, like I'm not peeling through stuff. It's kind of organized chaos. And that's really the way you could sum up me with this score, is it's pretty much organized chaos, right? And as a result, figure out where you are. If you're lower on the scale, it means you probably have a bigger mess than me. You probably don't just have your peanut butter oatmeal bowl that I just ate minutes before coming on here, right? You keep things a little bit more tidy than I probably do. But I'm not like if I was a 5, this would drive me nuts. And it drives me a little bit like I should probably clean this up. But then some other priority will come up, like my son will want to go outside and play football, and my kids always come first, and I'm able to compartmentalize. Whereas a person who's a 5 would, I gotta clean this room before I do anything. Like my grandmother is a 5. Like, well, I guarantee she scores 5 on organization. She's a person who always thinks her house is a wreck, even when there's not even a mess in the house. Like there's one plate in the kitchen that's not clean. My house is a wreck. Right, that's your 5. And I'm kind of joking, but I'm joking to illustrate the point. And then if you're way down at the bottom of the spectrum, right, you're under a 2, your office probably looks worse than mine. Right, so the challenge then becomes, how does this organization apply in things like jobs that you apply for and how you manage your life and your time, right? Because one of the things that came up in the organization part here is, I want to pull it back up and read it. Tendency to seek order, particularly in one's physical surroundings. Low scores are sloppy and haphazard, whereas high scores like to keep things tidy and prefer a structured approach to tasks. Are you a list maker? Like you have to have a list and go down the list? I'm not. I will have an idea of here's the things I need to accomplish today, and then the order I do them in. Usually the way I structure is I try to do the hardest stuff first and then go from there, rather than being meticulous about timing and that this has to happen by 10 p.m. Like that, if you look at my social media feed, it's a perfect example of my organization. It's not very structured. You can't count on a video coming out on YouTube every day at noon. Sometimes it's going to come out at 3. Sometimes you're not going to get one because I was doing something else. Right? Facebook. And Facebook's a little bit different because I'm always experimenting. Like I'll post something at 3 o'clock in the morning just because I have a lot of international followers too, just to see how it responds. But I don't have like a daily reminder. Just being, it's time for you to make your Facebook post. No, I think of a thing and I post it on Facebook, and then there's that, right? I don't have, for me and for me personally, I don't have a drawn out strategic. Well, I do have a strategic plan. That's not true. But I don't have like a day to day, here's all the content that I'm going to produce, like the way I would do it for a client, where it's they know everything that's going to post usually 90 days out. For me, I don't do that because I'm not as interested in, selling cars or like, I'm not as interested in that type of engagement. I'm actually trying to, my delivery is a lot more natural, but even in that natural way of doing it, it's not every day at 11 here comes my, I mean, people are like, when's the best time to I don't care, I'm posting it when I think of it. Go on. Now I usually have a window. You'll rarely see me post something at 6 o'clock in the morning because I know either nobody's awake, or if they are, the last thing they're thinking of is listening to me talk about something or read some quote that I put up, right? But it's, just think through those things and understand. And this is where self awareness kind of starts going up to that next tier of self compassion. If you're not a crazily organized person, like if you scored a 1, let's say that, right? You should probably do something about that. Right? You should probably take the necessary steps to override your tendency to be completely disorganized, right? Because that's going to cost you. But if you're a 3, it's okay. Accept that and just know what are the things, how can you structure your life in a way where being a 3 is manageable. You probably don't want to have a job as an accountant if you're not very organized, right? Because it's going to be hard. I'm not saying you can't do it and be good at it. It's just going to be hard. Like if you're not an anal list making, very, very structured person, that type of tedious, meticulous work, as you'll see as we go through the rest of these facets as well, it's going to be a little bit harder for you. So, no, maybe your lack of organization, you'll find when you guys come on, for those of you in the VIP program, when we do the openness discussion, the openness is where a lot of you artists that follow me are going to be like, oh, yeah, that's why I'm like that. Because it's conscientiousness and openness are opposing factors. Okay, and they're not mutually exclusive. You're going to learn that when we do the next. So when we do the next stream, like I said, just quick announcement if you're just tuning in. This is the last public stream. Everything else is going to be on our private site. So you need to join if you want to be a part of that. But you're going to see they're not mutually exclusive, but they are opposing. And that's something that I'm going to get into when we have that discussion. But just keep that in mind. Diligence is the next one. And it says the diligence scale assesses a tendency to work hard. Low scores have little self-discipline and are not strongly motivated to achieve, whereas high scores have a strong work ethic and are willing to exert themselves. Okay, so let's go up here. In diligence, I scored a 5. All right. That probably shouldn't shock anybody. I score a 5 in diligence. I'm a crazy goal setter, work hard. Like I'm gonna get down to 7% body fat. I'm gonna lift weights every day. Like that's just how I'm wired. I'm very, very driven. But if you assessed my son, and granted he's still a very young dude, so for him, he's still developing into the man that he's gonna be. But I can tell he doesn't have the driven tendencies that I have. Right, and some of that is mental health. Like I have obsessive tendencies that I need to be careful of because I'll overdo it. That's how I have a busted Achilles. That's how I broke my ankle. That's how I had a lot of the health issues I had is because I was pushing myself too hard. And that's where being a 5 can be detrimental to you. It can be amazing when you're on and doing something healthy. When you're doing stuff, even healthy stuff in excess, it can hurt you. Okay? So you just need to be aware of that. Me scoring a 5 doesn't mean that that's awesome. It means that I need to be very careful at the extremes. Now, if you score a 1, you have challenges too. But as a 5, there's some things that I very much need to be aware of. It means I have a tendency to work hard, but also I have a tendency to overwork, and that's what's not stated here. Low scores have little self-discipline. I would probably change that a little bit. I think everybody can develop self discipline. What most people need is something driving them. There needs to be a purpose to the self discipline. And I think over time, a lot of this writing will get updated, right? This is a work in progress. This is not by any means a finished product. Uh, but I will say that the high scores are definitely motivated to achieve. Everyone's not like that. I remember one of my closest friends, two of my closest friends are not achievers. They're not, I gotta win at all. It's like, dude, I just want to make a living, have some kids, and have barbecue on Sunday. Why are you so crazy? Right? But then there's those of us who are just freaking driven to make an impact on the world in a way that's profound. And it doesn't, one is not better than the other. They're just two different sides of the same soul, right? But I remember the first time I ran into a friend that wasn't driven like me, and it didn't compute because I was looking at it very selfishly, very narcissistically, like looking at the world only through my lens. I couldn't fathom, like, oh, there's people that aren't driven. What? What's that like? Ugh, I never heard of that. Right? So can that be good or bad? Well, it depends. Like anything in life, it depends on the circumstance and the situation. Right? Whereas high scores have a strong work ethic. I'm gonna put an asterisk next to that because even though I score a 5, if you give me something to do that I think is stupid or not effective or not efficient, my work ethic will, like, I won't be motivated to do anything. Like, dude, this is dumb. And I've been in professional situations where we were doing things literally for the worst reasons on the planet. I won't go into it on this talk because it's a long, very frustrating sequence of memories. But I remember being completely not motivated to do any of it because it was just work for the sake of work, so that someone could justify the fact that they existed in a job. They were making up work, and it was affecting the team that I was in charge of, and it was just a nightmare. And when I can tell, like, you're just making this up, bro. Like, this is stupid. And I think I said in a meeting, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Why would we allocate any time to that? There is no return on investment for the time we're going to have to invest to do that project, right? And needless to say, that meeting did not go very well for yours truly. But everything, by the way, this isn't my bias, or it was true. No one in that room, other than the people trying to justify their job, were defending that. And even secretly, I'm sure when they got home, they're probably like, man, I hope he doesn't say anything anymore because he's right. Right? It's just ridiculous. Right? So before you say, "Oh, I scored a 2, that's why I never have any work ethic." Not so fast. It might just be that you haven't found, again, that self awareness. Going through my 5 pillars of self awareness. What are your motivations? What are your values? Because I guarantee you can find motivation to work hard for something that you actually really, really care about. Okay, and you'd be willing to exert yourself. I think, and so what these definitions are usually talking about is the extremes, right? Not the kind of nuanced part of, yeah, it's, if you score a 0, that means you have no work ethic. But you probably also have a lot of other issues that has nothing to do with work ethic. Okay. And if you score a 5, yeah, you're going to be driven. You're going to have a tendency to get after it and be highly self-disciplined. But don't take it to mean that just because I score a 5 that I am self-disciplined in every area of my life. That's 100% not true. Right? This is a very nuanced thing that we're talking about here. Let's talk about perfectionism. A lot of the people that follow me on the internet got this one, and they score very high. And it can be good. It can also kill you. So let's talk about it. Perfectionism scale assesses a tendency to be thorough and concerned with details. Okay? Low scores tolerate some errors in their work and tend to neglect details, whereas high scores check carefully for mistakes and potential improvements. Okay? See, the challenge with any personality test or inventory is that people will take that paragraph and extrapolate it out to mean this is the be all end all definition, and it's not. Okay, I know even the creators of this test and some of the people, I know of some of the people who've done the work in this field, right? And they're trying to give you a simplified breakdown so that you can get an understanding, right? But to understand that the reason why you scored a 3.81, there's obviously some nuance in there. It's not this or that, and that's why I'm trying to get y'all out of the personality typing, where you're either this or that. It's no, you are a moving target. You are an evolving entity, right? And then as a result, there's going to be some nuance. And so let's talk about what I mean. If you go to the perfectionism scale, I don't score very high. In fact, I score lower than the median. And I score, I'm not quite as low as some of the lower people in the 80th percentile, but I'm relatively a low scorer, let's say, right? Or I'm middle of the road scorer, right? But let's read it again. Tendency to be thorough, yes. Concern with details, depends on the details, right? I am usually a much more big picture person. I only concern myself with the details that matter, and that's where you start to see some of the nuance. If I was a 5, I'd be cross every T, dot every I. I'd probably be a lot more anal, which I think you could replace perfectionism with anality. Would probably be similar, but it's when you look at my score, you start to realize, yes, I can be very concerned with details, but I believe, very astute at figuring out which details actually matter in terms of the outcome that we're trying to get. Right. And the example I've given many times, I was preparing an executive. I wasn't giving the speech at this event. I was preparing an executive whose speech I had put together for them. And I was going through this, and this is a person who's terrified of being on stage, even though they're a subject matter expert in what they were doing. They're terrified of being on stage. They don't like talking in front of people. So I'm coaching them up. Like, okay, here's what we need to do. And she started nitpicking the writing. Like, hey, this should be a semicolon. I'm like, dude, we got 7 minutes before I put you on stage. Stop looking. That semicolon doesn't matter. Right? You're not going to be reading this off of a sheet. This is just a guide. And by the way, it's not supposed to be a semicolon. Let's start there. But even if it is, you're focusing on details that are not going to help you with this presentation. Get out of that level of detail and get out of your comfort zone, which is being nitpicky and perfectionist, and realize that I need you to go be a human being in front of people. And they said, you're right, thank you. Thanks for getting my head back on straight. And then they did a great job. They did a great job. It's funny because this was a person I didn't really get along with, but in that moment, I was proud of him. It was like, yo, rock on. You did a great job. Right? So understanding which details matter in a situation. And if you're a crazy perfectionist, I guarantee you there are times where you're focusing on details that don't matter to the bottom line. And you're holding you and anybody else that's involved with you in whatever you're doing up. And that's why I said a high score doesn't necessarily always mean a great thing. Low scores tolerate some errors. I am willing to accept errors. I did an entire Myers-Briggs video with my sweater on backwards. Saw it in the editing, did not reshoot it, didn't care. It was like, it'll be something that, because I know how audiences work, I've been at this for a while, it'll get attention because people will be like, oh, they'll want to hurry up in the comments. Do you know your sweater's on backwards? No, ding dong. Of course I know it's on. Yes. I'm glad that you notice things that don't matter. Like, it was kind of like people will tell on themselves. And they're trying to be helpful. They're not trying to be nitpicky, but they are nitpicky. They're not trying to do it in a malicious way. It's just how they are. Right? And that's fine. Sometimes you need, like I always say this, my accountant is nitpicky AF. I think he caught 36 cents on a discrepancy in some paperwork I turned in a couple years back. And that's exactly how I want him to be. Get everything you can find wrong with my work, find it, because we're talking about money and the IRS. Right? So there's times where that 5 comes to bear. If you're a 5, think about becoming an accountant, man. It might help you out, or a lawyer, or like a cryptographer. You might be all right at that, right? But some areas in the work, we've made mistakes. I am totally willing to accept. I have a theory or a philosophy that's called, what is the acceptable risk? Right? Like, am I willing to allow something to go forward that's imperfect as long as it's going to meet the expectation or the outcomes that we're driving for? And if the answer we all come to is yes, then that's acceptable risk. Put it out. Doesn't need to be perfect. Just get it out. Right? That's a little bit more my tendency versus someone that has to perfect everything. A lot of you creative types also struggle with this perfectionism, and it's out of balance. And a lot of times your perfectionism isn't just perfectionism like you have a tendency toward it. It's a mental health, it's an anxiety issue, right? It is literally anxiety. And this is why I've been saying for months now that one of my new goals in life is to make public perception of mental help the same way we scream at people for not going to the dentist. We should be screaming at them for not going and talking to a therapist. Like, I think it, I mean, you can't make it mandatory, but I think everybody should see a therapist and work through things that you're dealing with. I've been doing it since I was in my 20s, not consistently. I've only been consistent probably for the last year plus, where I have been with a therapist many times a week at this point. But it's, I recommend it. Michael Jordan had a therapist, right? All these Tony Robbins people, they all go see people, right? Jordan Peterson went into rehab. Like, it's, do it. But a lot of what you're calling perfectionism is really anxiety masquerading as something you're trying to make positive, and you're anxious, and you have potentially a, you have a fear of rejection, right? Like a root of rejection inside you, that if you could just be perfect, people would accept you. And I only know it because I've experienced it. I've been in that place where I was trying to be perfect with everything, and it rips you apart from the inside out. And so don't, a lot of people say, well, I'm just a perfectionist. No, you probably, and for some people you are. You're just very detailed and meticulous, and that's fine. But there's sometimes where that gets out of balance, and it's something that you want to deal with. Okay. And I'm not trying to diagnose any of you. I'm not qualified to do that. I'm not, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to make you aware that what you're calling perfectionism may actually have some deeper roots that I would just encourage you to look into. All right. Let's see, where did we leave off? Tend to neglect. And so I don't neglect detail. Sometimes I can be crazily detail oriented. I'll give you an example. Tony, one of my editors. What up, Tony Farmer? How you living, brother? One of my editors, a different Tony, uh, had put out a video, and or he put out a piece of Instagram content that he used some language, some military language that was off. And because I understand that audience, and I know that saying that wrong could, it wasn't going to have like a crazy negative effect, but it wasn't going to have the effect. And I was like, in future correspondence, you have to get that right, right? So I can very much be very detail focused, but I am very programmed to figure out what are the 7 details that actually matter, and then the other 400 details that everyone's trying to focus on, put that to the side. Let's focus on the ones that actually have to be addressed so that we can accomplish whatever the thing is we're trying to accomplish, right? So don't think that just because you may score less than high, it's, oh, I just don't care about detail. I'm not a detail person. It's, that's too overly simplified. All right. uh, Whereas high scorers check carefully for mistakes and potential improvements. I do that all the time. I'm always looking to improve. And sometimes people see me as negative because I'm always pointing out, hey, we could have done this and this and this and this better. Instead of encouraging people, say, hey, you're doing a great job. I take that as a given. If I'm talking to you, I think you're doing a great job. And we can be even more amazing. So sometimes I have to check that in myself. Like, dial it back, encourage people, and then let them know how they can improve. Right. But I'm totally, like when I send out emails, sometimes I'll check it 6 times. But again, that's not just perfectionism as a personality facet. It's also, I have obsessive tendencies, which is something that I have to keep in check. Right? Okay. Last, the prudence scale assesses a tendency to deliberate carefully and to inhibit impulses. Low scores act on impulse and tend not to consider consequences, whereas high scores consider their options carefully and tend to be cautious and self-controlled. Let's see, how did I do? I scored almost the max, right? 450 out of 5, right? So it's very much, I score pretty high in prudence. But again, this is about you guys, right? Where did you score in prudence, and how do you perceive yourself? Are you a person who tends to deliberate carefully and inhibit your impulses, or are you just like, just do it, man? Just, let's go buy let's buy 6 Nintendo Switches, man. Screw it. Let's just blow the money and go have fun. Are you a YOLO person, or are you a let's plan for the future and let's chill? Right, so you can see that, my two highest here are diligence and prudence, but really start to ask yourself, are you a very organized person? Are you really high? Are you really low? Are you kind of in the middle? And what does that mean for you as a person, as a professional, in relationships with other people, whether it's friendships, whether it's family, whether it's romantic, a marriage, children, right? Uh, where are you on the diligence scale? Right? Do you have a tendency to be really, really driven and work really, really hard no matter what task you're given? Right? Or are you kind of more laid back, hippie-ish, like, I just want to make my art and relax? Uh, are you a perfectionist? And I know a number of you are because I talk to a lot of you. And some of you aren't. Some of you are like, yeah, it's fine. I'm good. Some of you are more in my camp where it's like, I have a level of perfection, but I've been able to kind of tone it down over the years and adjust that part of me. And I think some of my perfectionism was that anxiety piece. It wasn't just my personality. It was I grew up around a lot of anxiety, and I was always trying to make myself perfect to make myself acceptable. It's just an unhealthy place to be. And then the prudence scale, where do you fall in terms of prudence, right? So I talked longer than I had planned to. Let's go through some of the comments here. And then you guys, if you haven't already been doing it, start getting your questions in. And I'll be happy to answer them. Reminder, kind of administrative note, your questions do not have to be related to the topic we're discussing tonight. You can ask me whatever's on your mind or your heart. Alyssa says, I'm interested in what you have to say about this. I score very high. I consider myself a recovering perfectionist. It's difficult to let go of, for sure. Andrew says, hey, sir, was driving when you started. I'm doing all right. Got to bring up my Hexaco BRB. Okay. Josh Quinn says, my score on organization is 3.5. And while I can be organized, there are cases in which I am not. For instance, my room is not nearly as clean as it could be, but I tend to clean it up. Okay, cool. Krook. Krook is my grandma. Grandma, are you watching this? Krook, the whole time, has that been you? You been grandma? My grandmother's watching my Twitch feed, and she named herself Krook for some reason. Josh Quinn says, doesn't shock me. Andrew says, I'm similar, scored a 4.5. And I assume he's talking about diligence. And I would imagine most military folks are going to score high in diligence and prudence. Even if you weren't born that way, military certainly would make you that way. And that's one of the other reasons why I like this personality inventory. Because while, and I told you, link in the description, the book that explains how this test came to be and why the H factor of personality is so important. And H factor, they're talking about honesty and humility, the H in Hexaco. They get into, most of your personality is genetic, but there are parts of it that are learned. And a lot of my conscientiousness is learned. It's environmental. And some of it is certainly genetic, but a good amount of it, the extra credit. The reason why I score a 5 is because I also was put into the military. Or one could say maybe the military was a good fit because I was already diligent. Because I was the same way as an athlete. Like as a training as an athlete, I was freaking insane. Like I would work all season getting ready for football. Out in and out of season. Running routes. I would run routes until it got dark outside with my quarterback or with anybody who would throw the ball to me. Josh Quinn says, as for me, my score is 4.25, which looks to be way above medium range. Joey Vargas says, new to this live stream, what personality test are you discussing? Joey, we are discussing the Hexaco Personality Index. Thank you, Andrew. I'm not familiar with it. New rabbit hole. Link in the description, Joey. Andrew says, you are disciplined in things you are passionate about rather than disciplined in all things. Correct. And I can muster discipline when necessary. Even if it's something I'm not passionate in, but I need to get it done, I can figure it out. It's like when people say, I can't get to the gym. Get your ass up and get to the gym. I'm not hearing that. Just not motivated. Then be fat. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm not your inspiration, dog. Like, I'm not gonna play awesome music and go run on a beach and, you know, light's always darkest right before the dawn. Like, get your ass up and lift some weights. I wish I could be y'all's freaking inspiration. Like, come to your houses. Like, if I was president, I would just go to people's houses and F with them. That's what I would do. And everyone would hate me. God, why did we vote for this clown? All he does is come to our house and try to make us better humans. All right. Hey, I looked on this channel first time now, and that's a nice YouTube channel. Well, thank you. Do you remember the saying he messed up? I don't. I honestly, because there were so many of them, and there were a couple that we had to make tweaks to, but I don't remember. I don't remember exactly what he said. Uh-oh. What's going on out here? Stand by, friends. Hey, I'm working. What's going on here, Chief? Are you okay? Who are you fussing at? Is he in there with Nana? You don't have to whisper. Is he in there? Why is he in there? Was he scared? He didn't want to sleep alone? Okay, that's fine. He's not going to be in trouble. Are you okay? Did your other brother fall asleep? No, not Zach, the other brother. Oh, the whole crew? Okay, well, have fun. You want to hang out in my room so you're not alone? Okay. Oh, you want to hang out on the? Yeah, you can come in. Come on. You just don't be mad at me if you're tired when you get up for school tomorrow. Have a seat right there. So my oldest is gonna come hang with us on the call. Hey, I didn't dap you up anyway, man. To give you a hug before you went to sleep. It's good to see you. All right. Um, I have a theory that prudence normally increases with age. Yeah, for sure. For sure. That 100%. Just like the kind of accepted cliche I've heard for a long time is that you get less extroverted as you get older, which is interesting though, because if you look at extroversion on this test, um, which I like the way this test deals with it. I don't think social self esteem gets lost. In fact, I think you get way more self esteem and boldness as you get older. What I think goes down is sociability and liveliness. That's what I think is lost. Because if you're already good on self esteem, you certainly get more socially bold as you get older, no matter who you are. Right? But I think sociability and, like I talk about Tony here a lot. This is my business partner and one of my brothers from another mother. And we've joked about like working together in different environments and then like going to networking events. I can't go without him because he's the social guy. I always joke, like the running joke with me is, oh, B's an extrovert that hates people. it's, and it's a joke. I don't hate people, and people get on my nerves a lot. Uh, but you can love people and have them get on your nerves. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. Spend enough time on the internet, people get on your nerves. I just don't talk about it because my mom always taught me if I didn't have anything nice to say, don't say anything, or just say something else, which is typically what I do. But he's a much more social dude than I am, and as I've gotten older, I've gotten less and less social. Right, especially because the people I socialize with the most, I live in a house with, so I get filled up between a wife and a mother-in-law, and between cool kids that I get to hang out with. I get all the social activity I need. Like it's funny because when I go to camp in the summer, a lot of times I just stay in my cabin alone because it's like I just need some. Even as a max extrovert, I need some isolation. You know what I mean? So it's very much a. I think what happens is with prudence, because as you get older, you get more experience and you realize, yeah, a lot of the stupid stuff I did, like when I ran out of money, my first year in the army, and I had to call my brother and ask him to help me pay my rent. Yep, been there. Don't do that anymore. Yeah, I have all these people that hit me up like, yo, you look like you have it all together. Like, yeah, I wish you could have seen 23-year-old me. You didn't have much of anything together. All right, what are your questions, friends? I have said my piece and I spoke longer than I had intended to. Man, an hour went by fast. Oof, only meant to talk for 30 minutes. All right, questions, because I'm not staying up real late tonight, friends. I got to get up at the butt crack of dawn tomorrow. And I got to come back to get kids ready for school after I do what I'm doing in the morning. Right? Always have to give it a minute on YouTube because the recording, the stream always seems to be about a minute behind the reality. So I'll give you guys a second to get your questions in. But if you don't have any questions, shoot, we can adjourn. Joey Vargas says, just took the test. What are some of the more important? All of them are important. All of them are important. So the way I would answer that is different categories are important for different things. Obviously, and all of them are going to affect all facets of your life, but in different ways, right? Honesty and humility is going to be hopefully a theme that runs through everything that you are, right? Hopefully, you're honest and humble. And if you score very low on that, that's a problem. And that's something that you definitely want to get addressed. But look at it more comprehensively. Get into the details. Like get in because you can get this PDF when you take the test. It'll show you all this with your scores, where you can start to look at okay, and then start to look when you read the definitions, just like we've done here. And the people in our Good Life Playbook can go back and watch the older videos we've done. You can start to figure out okay, how does let me pick a thing. I'm really high in flexibility. How does that affect my relationships? Right? How does that affect me in social situations? Well, it's simple. When my wife comes home and says, "Hey, I was thinking I wanted to paint our room mauve." Well, my first response is, "What the hell is mauve? Why are you using girl colors? Like, use colors that men would know the name of." Uh, and yes, I guess that was a sexist statement, but it's the truth. That's what I said. Uh, it's And then when she explains, "Oh, it's kind of a," and then she had to just show me a picture of it because it's basically pink and brown mixed. And it makes almost like a lavender, dark lavender, whatever. And when she told me that, I was like, all right, that was the end of the discussion. I don't care. I'm a flexible dude. I don't care about a lot of things. And then going back to, what was it? Perfectionism is the person that focuses way crazy on details. I'm not crazy on details like that. I don't care. Well, and she had us paint our living room yellow. It looked horrible. Whatever. I don't care. Enjoy it. I care about a very small circle of things because I'm pretty flexible. And even if I don't necessarily agree, I'm usually the one that compromises because I don't care as much as she does about a lot of things, which makes it work. It's like I don't. It's fine. You want to paint the room brown pink? I'm just sleeping in here with the light. I'm sleeping and other things in here with lights out, so I'm not gonna see these walls very much anyway. Alyssa says, I'm looking at developing a niche and have resources at hand. Any intuitive hits as to one I should look into? So you're talking about for building your client base, I assume. Um, Honestly, I would start with folks that remind you of you because you're gonna be greatly able to help take people like you on the journey that you've had to walk through. And by you, I mean women who, have faced a number of the same challenges that you have faced and are facing. Let's see. Broken Suba says, I have a feeling my agreeableness has a lot of interplay with my diligence. I can put up with a lot of crap and be able to perform my duties. This is sometimes good and sometimes bad. Sure, because people, I think some people are probably given my demeanor and the way that I come across, because I seem very intense, and I am a pretty intense person. I think people would assume that I score much lower, and stereotypically, men like me do score much lower in agreeableness. I think this is one of those situations where genetically, yes, I'm very forgiving, and I'm very flexible. I'm not very gentle, right? And I realize I score very high. And that, like I told you guys, this isn't the most updated test. I don't know what state of mind I was in when I took it. I know my gentleness is not that high at all. It's in the threes easily. But I'm not a very gentle person. But I can behave gently, right? But it's, and patience. I do have a lot of patience when it comes to certain things, but people drive me nuts. Right? I'm just able to still act. I think my conscientiousness mixes heavily with my agreeableness to where I don't become a doormat, which is how they, it's the stereotype you associate with people who are crazily agreeable. Like, oh, you just, because trust me, I'd have no problem if someone was trying to break in the house right now. All that forgiveness and what's the other one? Gentleness. No, I remember my wife woke me up a couple years ago, and she's like, "I think someone's trying to break in the kitchen." I won't tell you what I said, because you will come to grips with how crazy I actually am. But I went and got some tools to deal with the situation. My wife looks at me like, "Word, all that." I said, "Listen, if they're breaking in the house, I'm not going down there to negotiate. This person is going to meet an ambulance or Jesus tonight." Now, it ended up being a raccoon. It wasn't someone trying to break in the house. Everything was fine, but I cleared the entire house. Like, all my agreeableness is great, but in certain situations, I don't play that. And I would have slept like a baby after. If I had to shoot somebody in that situation to protect my family, I'd sleep like a baby after it was over. Right? So and I give you that example because there's always nuance to things like these. These tools are not perfect end all be all black and white mechanisms to help you pinpoint exactly who you are. It's just showing you the best it can a glimpse of yourself, which is why I say this is a lifelong process of self-awareness. This is why I recommend that people take these tests, frequently. I take the hexaco usually a couple times a year just to say, okay, did I answer honestly? That's the thing I have to question myself on, because I've been doing these tests for over 20 years. I know how to answer the questions to get the answers I want. So I have to really challenge myself. Did I answer that the way I wish I was, or is that how I really am? Right? And I have to do that. So sometimes I take it and I try to be really objective and try to be honest, even if it's a facet that I don't like so much. Right? It's like, all right, I need to. Like, I don't like sometimes that I'm not gentle. It's probably why these scores are inflated. Right? Let's see. Joey Vargas says, okay, good to know. Thank you. One last question. Does this correlate with MBTI? Jessica Nugent says, thank you. Peace sign butterfly paw prints. Okay. I've never seen those before. Obviously I've seen peace signs, paw prints. I've just never seen those emoticons before. Does it correlate with MBTI? Um, does it correlate? Correlate how? Because I mean, you can make anything correlate. But what are you trying to ask me specifically? Like, are you trying to say because you score this, then you're a ISTJ or whatever? I'd say probably not, because they're two very different tests. This test is measuring facets of your psyche that are actually measurable. Myers Briggs is trying to make determinate. Well, Myers Briggs is adding content to what Dr. Jung was trying to do, which was to help you understand your temperament and your cognitive, the way your brain processes information and makes decisions, right? Your cognitive functions, what that is actually about, right? So, does being crazily conscientious correlate with being a J? Could, very much could. But I would use conscientiousness as a measurement way more than I would care about whether I'm a P or a J. Because with that test, especially with Myers Briggs, they're trying to put you in that either or. You're either this or that. Like, no, come on. People are way more nuanced than that. Andrew says, I know that feeling, sir. I had to train myself out of room clearing, though. My PTSD had me at one point in time doing it uh, the other day. Yeah, and it's, that hypervigilance is real, man. But, I don't clear the house every day. It's just in that scenario. And I used to live in a neighborhood where it's not as nice as I live now. It was nice, but it's not like here. You know? It's a much more populated area. Certainly not as, I live close to, you know, there's a lot of people with money out here. Lots of money. Uh, so a bit of a different feel. So, like, I had my car broken into a couple of times in my old neighborhood. Nothing crazy. Like, no one ever tried to break in my house or anything. Yeah, for sure, man. That's a tough place to be. Alyssa said, your intuition didn't sound very intuitive. That's an ENTJ for you. Just kidding. That is totally thinking and not intuitive response. Well, I was, my response is really based on not enough information. Are you, give me some more information to help you, um, give me, give me a more detailed question so I can intuit better. I can read into what you're not saying. Joey Vargas says, thank you, Bryant. I have a new rabbit hole to go down and a new tool to learn. New to this particular test. Appreciate your knowledge. Hey, thanks, Joe. Thank you, brother. And thank Kibium Lee and Michael Ashton. It's their knowledge. I'm just reading it. And the book is written by them. All right, so while Alyssa is asking a better question, does anybody else have questions? Hello there, says, yo, Brian, what you found best to practically help conscientiousness and consistency? A strong desire to accomplish something. Desire. Andrew says, I terrified my mother back then. She wanted to come yell at me when I just got back home from the sandbox, but she knew I'd end up doing something. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is you were clearing your house shortly after you came home from the sandbox? Well, of course you were, bro. That's, come on, man. Uh, People got to give you time, dude. Nobody really respects how much time it actually takes to reacclimate. To, like, I remember, I tell the story. My first day home really was my second day home. My wife, she, you know, she did all the driving when I first got home, and she was like, "Let's go get." You know, we were going to get new cell phones, and I've told this story before, so forgive me if you've heard me tell this 100 times. But I think someone else will get something out of it too, who doesn't understand the plight that you were going through. And it's, you know, she's like, let's go get our new cell phones. I think we were switching over to T-Mobile from Sprint or something like that. It's like, okay, cool. Or she had gotten T-Mobile while I was gone, and then she was going to pick up new phones so that I could have a new phone because I didn't have a phone in the sandbox. And so I just remember we were going down the hill to get on the exit ramp to get on the highway where I lived. And I remember when we used to go out on patrol, going down, getting on the exit ramps in Baghdad, I used to keep my rifle stacked behind my shoulder in my Humvee. And so when we go out on patrol or go to set up checkpoints, I would reach over my shoulder, grab my rifle, and then, you know, stick it out the window to make sure that we weren't going to get attacked on our routes. And I remember my wife was coming down the hill and getting on the exit ramp, and I started doing this right here. I started reaching. And she was looking at me like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, yeah, I'm home now. I said I was reaching for my rifle. I said, this is usually the point in the day where we're going into somewhere that's not particularly friendly. And I want to be prepared just in case we start getting shot at. And I'm not computing that I am home like this. No one's probably going to shoot at us on the highway here at Fort Benning. Right. So it's tough, man. You got to give time. What is taking Alyssa so long to ask this question? You're gonna ask me a question and then make fun. And guys, if you think I'm picking on Alyssa, it's because I am, because I very much like Alyssa, and she is one of my favorite people in our program. Who just asked me a question and then made fun of my answer. So I'm like, okay, fine. Ask me a better question, or ask me a more detailed question. It doesn't have to be better. Alyssa says, besides knowing my story, any suggestions as to what niche I would be a badass at, and is just a good starting place. I want something that doesn't entirely put me in the deep end, but will allow me to walk the edge of my comfort zone. I got you, and understand too. And I know we're just kind of bantering back and forth. I'm not giving a lot of nuance and detail in my answer because I don't want to put all your business in the streets too. I'm trying to be respectful of your privacy. So, let me think on that for a second. Hmm. Because there's a couple different ways to, because I'm looking at like business hat Brian is thinking one thing, Alyssa's friend Brian is thinking another. And so I'm trying to merge it all together in a way that's going to be helpful for you. Um, so here's how I'll actually respond to that. Um, if I'm going off of intuition and legitimately trying to help you, which is what I'm trying to do. Before you start talking about niche, I think there's another layer that we need to unpack, and you and I probably need to have a in one of our one-on-one calls. We probably need to talk about it there in more detail. Maybe in the next Secret Knowledge Society call, you and I can actually discuss this. Because I'd like to bounce it off of you to get kind of your feedback. But the before we get into the niche, because when we were talking about the I love what you said about the comfort zone. And what I would like to tease out is instead of giving you an answer, I would want to ask more questions along the lines of would you be more comfortable, say, working, helping people with developmental coaching for career, developmental coaching for relationships, like there's so many different pockets that you can go into as a coach and different because there's executive coaches, there's relationship coaches, there's peak performance coaches, there's career coaches. What I would ask you is which one of those buckets kind of piques your interest and it's something that you would enjoy and want to do. And then once we kind of figure out the bucket or the vertical, if you will, because I'm putting it in YouTube terms, like is the vertical going to be gaming or beauty or is it going to be DIY? And once we kind of figure out the bucket you're interested in, then we can start to niche down into okay, if we're going to do straight up career coaching, then I want you focused on um, 24 to 40-year-old women in this field, and then on top of that, here's some other things we can look out for with the, and this is totally hypothetical what I'm saying, but there's other things we can look out for knowing your particular experiences, right? And that's so before we start jumping into not career say that's great, that's great feedback, so it's okay, not trying to do relationship, not trying to do career. So now we're talking about peak performance coaching, we're talking about generalized life coaching. Like this is a person, like I have a life coach, a guy that I call on is just like, and Tony's one of my coaches too. I mean, he's my business partner, but he's also a coach to me because he's a professional coach, right? So he'll sit in the office right here with me and he will grill me, and it's a total balls to the wall. Like it'll go from business to life to why are you on earth and why do you matter? Like, oh, right. And all in good ways, right? But it's so it sounds like for you, the more, and so go back to what we talked about on Twitch the other night with your boyfriend, right? And think about what you helped him through. And we don't have to get into the details here because I want to keep your private business private, but it's think about what you walked him through. And that totally, and I could tell just by reading your comments, that gave you a ton of joy and a ton of yes. It's, do you want to be like a breakthrough coach, like helping people get through the hurdles that are stopping them from getting to a thing that they want? Because then that can affect career and relationships, and you don't have to deal with any of the the icky stuff in those worlds. You can just help them with the mental blocks that are keeping them, like being a mindset coach, right? doesn't matter the niche, you will be doing some relationship coaching. I just don't want to work with both halves. Okay, got you. Okay. So yeah, and when I said relationship, I meant more specifically like helping couples. And so I kind of equated those two things. But yeah, that's kind of I think you and I need to have a like legit conversation in one of our next calls, and let's do the Socratic method, where I take you through series and series of questions to get you to find that thing that you're digging for, rather than just saying, "I think you'd be great in this niche." I want to give you a better answer than that. I want to actually work with you to come to a conclusion versus just saying this is what you should do. Um, because I think you probably already have some instincts, and I want you to take those instincts out for a test drive, and then kind of use me as a sounding board to bounce them back at you and help you refine it. I think that's a better way to get at it. But certainly, I think niche wise, I think working um, certainly in areas dealing with mental health, I think that's going to be huge for you. Andrew says, by the way, sir, with the dream career you asked about on Facebook, I want to be an advisor, specifically spiritual, but with both mental and financial advice in there as well. Okay. Well, financial advice. Tony will tell you, he's the deacon at a church. Um, he will tell you that a lot of the counseling he does certainly includes financial advice. So, yeah, spiritual, financial advice can be very spiritual. Wrong Peach says, "Hello, Bryant. What have I missed? Everything, Peach. We're in the Q&A now." Let's see. My plan is to make a pagan community center where all walks of life are free to come be in nature, find community if they have none, and find healing if needed. Okay, cool. Lisa says, "You're telling me this is not a softball question. I seem to have that pattern." Yeah, I mean, yeah, but you're also dealing with a person who never likes to oversimplify. I could just give you an answer like, just do that, you'll be great. And you would. But I feel like I owe you better than just giving you a here's an answer that solves the immediate problem. Because at the end of the day, this idea of having a niche or a niche, however you pronounce the word, I have no idea. Um, because you're going to put a lot of effort into it. I want us to, and because I've been down this road with myself and with a lot of other people too. So a bit of this is coming from experience, where it's you get somebody in a niche. Like think about me, I accidentally landed in the Myers Briggs kind of cult niche, and that was a nightmare. Like, I did not want to be that guy, right? And that was unintentional. So I want to make sure if we're talking about niching you down, and obviously we can pivot and we can make adjustments, but I'd like it to get off to a good start. Um, I'd like to, at least if we're going to spend some time in a niche, it's an area that we've really kind of worked through where to start you off, so that you're going to at least be happy, even if you have to adjust after the fact. Yep. Tony could tell you some funny stories about breaking people out of limiting beliefs. Oh man. Yeah, I like Andrew's plan too. Yeah, and it wouldn't be fun if it was all softball questions. I like the deeper questions. Let's see. Anybody else got questions? Y'all are just listening attentively, man. I appreciate that. Check this out. This is like an unlicensed book from my childhood. My baby was reading this, and see, they use the pictures of the toys, not the pictures of the actual characters. And look how jacked up Optimus Prime is. Like, he does not look like. First of all, his eyes are not gold. Well, they are, but they don't look like that, right? And his gun is black, and it's ridiculous. I don't know who drew this, but they certainly needed to not be drawing Transformers. Yeah, it's all wrong. This must be unlicensed, but clear. I mean, they have the Transformers trademark and everything on here. It's like they're drawing the toys instead of drawing the. I don't remember where I got this from. I think it was like fourth grade. I think it was one of those book drives at school where I got it in like fourth grade. I think so. That's when I would have been watching the show. Oh, does that happen on the book drives? Well, I just think they hired an artist that didn't. This obviously isn't the artist that drew Transformers for the cartoon. They just hired someone to illustrate this book. And the person that illustrated the book, they gave him the toys and they drew it like the toys instead of drawing it like the cartoon. So that's what I think happened. I don't really know for sure. Well, but that's fine. But like this is partially the way he looks in the cartoon. But like in the cartoon, his wheels aren't showing, and his eyes are actually eyes, not these glasses that he has on. And you don't see the windshield wipers on his chest or the wheels down by his feet. Like all that goes away when he transforms. So I don't know. It's weird. Uh oh. Hello there says he wrote some. They wrote something I missed. Bryant, man, what do you know about ENFPs and any brief advice you could share? Well, so that question is. I'm gonna be real with you. That question is way too broad. I mean, that'd be like, what do you know about Chinese people, and what would you tell us? You know, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not trying to make fun of your question. I'm just saying that's the equivalent of what you're asking me. Uh, and I've always struggled on everything I've ever done where people ask me for really, really overly generalized advice. I mean, don't worry, be happy. That's the best advice I can give to a very generic question like that. Is there something that you're dealing with specifically that you'd like to ask me? Right? And especially because you're asking me about an ENFP that I don't really know a whole lot about you. Like you may be an ENFP, that doesn't really tell me a whole lot. Um, because I have learned through experience that even with Myers Briggs testing, people with similar personality types or the same type can be very different people. Let's see what else. Let's see if I missed anything else. Hello there, says Bry. What's your favorite book at the moment? Hand me the book that's down there, bro. It looks like a Bible. It's not, but it's actually one of the secret books in our secret knowledge society. This is my current favorite book that I mean, you can see I'm only about halfway through it because I'm digesting every word of this 600 page just awesomeness. This book like lights my brain on fire when I read it. This this secret book, which we talk about in the Secret Knowledge Society, is my current favorite book right now. That's you said that's why it looks like a Bible. Why do you think that? Because I'm getting. Oh, okay. That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah, well, I get that. A lot of Bibles do look generic like that. Andrew says, "Thank you. I found where I live, the nearest center or church is 2.5 to 3 hours away. Jesus." And there are so many people around here that don't have a place to go. Well, it sounds like you certainly have supply and demand, which, going back to Alyssa's question, that's where business hat Brian was kind of living, where it's part of my advice to you is also going to center around supply and demand, right? I need to know about, how we're approaching this. Is it going to be online? Is it going to be in person? Like, there's a lot more questions I want to ask you that may affect how I help you come to your decision for that. Josh Quinn, yes, it is. My son just asked, "Is online church a thing?" And I said yes. Josh Quinn says, "I have seen worse cases. One of the Pokemon manga was illustrated by an artist who specialized in drawing porn, and it showed." Well, then, that sucks. Andrew says, "And helping people without physical reward other than Seeing them improve gives me the best satisfaction in the world. Well, that's your reward. That's not without reward. That your reward is you're helping the people. Yeah, Tony and I are secretly building our empire, for lack of a better term. Eventually, it ends with us running a virtual type of church, but we're doing it backwards. Instead of starting a church and then having to beg people for their charity, tithes, or whatever you want to call it, to keep it running, we're going to build it so that it runs on its own. So that we don't have to be dependent upon somebody's charity to do what God put us on this earth to do. All right, hello there. Says, I thought it was quite broad. Yeah, it was. It was too broad for me to give you an answer that's not some ridiculous platitude like "Don't worry, be happy." Haha, thanks. I'll definitely be more specific. Got you. Lisa says I met a pretty great ENFP, but he has a lot of personal experiences and fears that built him into who he is. When is our next Secret Knowledge Society call? I'm still working that out. I will let you guys know. Hopefully next week. Me and my wife have kind of been ships passing in the night with things that she's had going on, and with my daily ritual of therapy and doctor's appointments and blah blah blah. I've been kind of all over the place. So we're working that out. We're trying to get things a little bit more stabilized, especially as she was getting ready to take her LSAT test, and she's still got stuff to do with that. So everything's pretty much been taking care of the house, taking care of the family unit right now. But we will definitely get back to it. I'm hoping next week we'll be able to do something. Tony says, "Shh." Hello, there's this. How convenient. LOL. Any links to the Secret Knowledge Society? Looks like yes. The link to the Secret Knowledge Society is patreon.com/Bryant Chambers, and it's the tier for joining the Secret Knowledge Society is the $30 tier. And then once you do that, you get an email from me to start the interview process to make sure that you are a good fit for the society. We even give you a miniature psych eval to ensure that you are going to be a good human being to add to our fold. And people like Alyssa are in there, Tony's in there, a good couple of people are in there. And then for like if it turns out that we decide that you're not a good fit, you know, we would refund the Patreon thing. And for people who don't want to deal with Patreon, like if you're adamant, like I don't want to deal with Patreon, I just want to deal with you, we can set up an online sign up form for you. It's fine. Alyssa says, I actually realized for the population of my area, there are not a lot of certified coaches, and I have not found many uncertified ones. Okay, good. Very good. And then what we'll want to look at too is some of the, I don't know if we'll go to census data, but understanding what some of the bigger problems people face in your area. Like we'll actually want to look at it from a business perspective too, not just from a. We'll want to look at it from your side, but also from the side of the people that you're potentially going to be serving. So we'll figure it out. Say what? Okay. I mean, you took me this far in the journey. Come on. Yes. Yeah. Okay. That is my highly intelligent son, friends. Did you hear that? And you know Microsoft owns Skype, right? Yeah. That was very well put together. High five. You're a smart dude. Yeah. I don't think it would be hard at all. They would just have to get Apple to cooperate. That would be the hard part. Yeah, Skype is, but connecting the game and the like, there's some connectivity in there that they. Well, I guess if they ran Skype and the game at the same time, that would work. Yeah, I'm tracking. Wrong Peach 22 says Secret Knowledge Society sounds like a cult. That's on purpose. Because people who think it's a cult will leave it alone. Like people who are quick to judge. And I'm totally being serious with you. Because we had this discussion internally. Who is that? Unlock it. It's probably your baby brother. Yes, how can I help you? We're working. Well, go lay on my bed, and then I'll figure out what to do with you later. Yeah. So we talked about it. It's the we had that discussion internally. Like this sounds kind of like a cult, and I said I kind of am okay with that because people who are quick to just outright dismiss a thing based on kind of superstitious fear are folks we wouldn't want to be around anyway. Just kind of like, yeah, just roll with it. And then those people completely disregard it. And it's like, great. We'll just keep rolling with the folks who are dedicated to, and kind of the irony of the name is, uh, kind of our motto is that nothing is secret. It's just people aren't looking. like, like all the wise, successful people of the world hide their knowledge completely in plain sight. It's just people don't know where to look. There's a lot of career coaches and some health coaches. I haven't found any with other niches in my area. Okay. Yeah, we'll figure it out. If you could have any three people in your mastermind group, who would they be? Well, they're already in it. My wife, and if you know about the people who really started the mastermind discussions that everyone's so obsessed with today, the people who really were the pioneers of that, they'll tell you that the first person in your mastermind group should be your spouse, period. And you should choose your spouse based upon their, that should be one of the deciding factors if you're choosing your spouse, is that they're a good fit for your mastermind group with, for whatever your definite purpose on earth is. Yeah, that's all day, man, for sure. So yeah, my wife, my kids when they get older will be in there. We're the ones that choose. Tony is in there. We have another guy in our group that you guys don't hear about. He's our silent assassin. So yeah, I've already got my mastermind group. I'm cool. I don't need to wish anybody else was in it because I got all the right people in it. I think if I could add anybody to our group, um, if I had the ability to do it, I would add Jordan Peterson without hesitation. Like I sent him a message when I signed up for his social media platform. Said, if you guys accept me, I'm so serious about getting on their social media platform that I said, if you accepted me, and one of the conditions of acceptance was that I had to delete all my other social media. I think except for Facebook because I want to stay connected to old military friends and family. Um, I said if I could just keep that part of it, I'd shut all of the rest of the stuff down. Just and it was being, hype. It was it wasn't real because why would that be a requirement? It's like that's how serious I was about working with them. Lisa says I want to dig into people's limiting beliefs and help them out something more helpful in its place. Okay, put something more helpful in its place. That much I know is a passion. Okay, so that's in the realm of mindset coaching. Okay, so that's a good start. So we're going to be a mindset coach. I can help them identify the next step to their goal, but they won't reach it if there's the gremlin in the way. Sure. Okay, so we're talking about mindset coaching, and then we just need to figure out that's kind of the what. We'll figure out our way into the who. Andrew says, and what I'm seeing is there are a lot of people aren't even realizing they have a gremlin. Yeah, that was me. I had a lot of gremlins that I wasn't aware of. 100%. I can raise my hand to that. Hello there says that. Hello there says that's great advice. Thank you. Oh, thank you. An admirable answer. Jordan B. Peterson is definitely in mind too. I'm sure one day you'll have a live stream with him. That's down the road. I'm hoping to connect with him on a more personal level because there's some things. There's just a kindredness. Because what's funny is how I got exposed to him was actually through you all. Someone came on one of my shows was like, "Have you ever heard of this Jordan Peterson guy?" I was like, "No, who is that?" They're like, "You remind us of him." And then the more I listen and listen, I'm like, "Dude, me and this guy might be brothers in another dimension." Right? Um. So yeah. Alyssa says I would want Jen Sincerio. Heck yeah, she's awesome, man. In fact, where's her book on my? I have both of her books on my shelf. You know who else you need to add, Alyssa, is my homegirl. Oh, what is her name? I can see the book, but it's covered. Do me a favor. Will you grab the Fascinate book up there? Top right hand corner of this middle shelf. The black rainbow looking thing. Oh, it's Sally Hogshead. I just remembered that as he handed it to me. Look up Sally Hogshead. She's dope. Thank you, sir. That book Fascinate will also help you with the niching down part because there's a business self awareness part of that book that's really awesome. Wrong Peach says, I'm sure you want to keep your criteria for SKS to be secret, but do you think you could? No, the criteria is not secret at all, 100%. It's we do basically you and I have an email. We talk about your goals and what you're trying to do because ultimately we want people in the program who are focused, like people like Alyssa, who are focused on making life better for people around the world. And even if that around the world starts in their own inner circle and then grows out, that's the purpose of the group, right? Is to kind of usher in the way we think people should be living. And I don't mean should be living like some religious thing, like you should be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that, but people should have access to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness 100%, right? And we want to make sure that we put people in our group that are helping us drive that forward. Is that, hey, why are you not laying down? Yes, what would you like to tell me? We have one in this house. You hear it every day when mommy and your brother make grilled cheeses and it goes off. You know the thing you have to fan? Okay, now will you please give me a hug? Yeah, will you please give me a hug and go to bed? You got to get up for school tomorrow. Mwah. I love you. Now go to sleep. Yeah, good luck with that. Go to bed. Um, let's see. So no, the criteria is not secret at all. And then I give everyone a dark triad test, and then review the results just to make sure that everything's kosher. Because what a lot of people get afraid of is like, oh my God, I have mental health issues. I'm never going to get in. No, that's not what it's about. I have mental health issues. It's about making sure that you don't have certain tendencies that could be problematic. And trust me, I've been running online communities. What is this, 2019? I have been running in some way, shape, or form online communities for 15 years, right? Whether they're my own or it's PlayStation, or I used to run one for one of the local music journalism businesses here in DC. A good friend of mine. It was actually the guy that got me into media. And I just know when you let certain people in, it is toxic to the environment. And we can't afford to have that when we're trying to save the world. That's all. Nothing about that secret. I talk about that a ton on my podcast for people who are interested. Right. That is the Secret Knowledge Society. Um, let's see who else. Alyssa says, in my training this last weekend, when you help someone identify a gremlin, there are often tears. Oh yeah, of course. Or in my case, it's usually a relief. Like, oh, that's what's wrong with me. Excellent. Joey Vargas says Jordan B. Peterson is a fraud. I'm not here to troll. You'll see it eventually. Okay. I. It's a really generalized statement. Like someone's just outwardly a fraud at what? what? What is he a fraud with, in your opinion? Which you don't have to answer that. That's fine. I'm always taken aback when people use dismissive terminology like that person's crazy or that person's a fraud. Certainly, he's a fraud in some area of life, and so are you, and so am I. Welcome to Earth. So when we use generic terminology, and usually when we use terminology to get after people like that, it's because they have stepped on one of our personal ideologies. Right? Like even if we find out that he, was selling crack on the side, it doesn't take away from some of the things that he said. But I know we live in a society that doesn't believe in that. So, like, if you want to levy an accusation against somebody, I guess it's really none of my business if you know something personally about him. But that's fine. Just it's it's like when I listen to people argue about politics. Oh, that politician is corrupt. Well, yeah, it's politics. Who do you think this is? I think he would probably agree with you that he's a fraud, but I don't know in what area of life you're talking about. Let's see. Wrong Piece says, what if that person's goal is to make better medical and technological advancements? Sure. Uh, Also, I know you talk about how you have to kill your wolf before you can kill the dragon. But what if said person hasn't? Did I say you had to kill a wolf before you kill a dragon? Have I ever said that? I and I may totally have said that. I'm not sure what you mean by that because I don't remember saying that. It doesn't mean I didn't. It's just I don't know. You have to kill your wolf. Are you saying you just things go in steps, like walk before you crawl type thing? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, go to bed, dude, because you got to get up early. All right, and I'm the one that has to get you up. So I love you, man. Thanks for hanging. Hello there. Says any books you can share until I can afford secret. Sure. What would you like a book in? Yeah, I remember the wolf is at your door stream. Did I say you had to kill a wolf? Because if I said that, I guess I'm meaning, you have to, everything goes in like a logical set of steps. Like you gotta walk before you gotta crawl before you walk or whatever. And if they haven't slain the wolf, that's fine. Um, it's just a matter of have you identified the wolf in this case, and are you working towards getting that squared away? And sometimes that could take days, months, years. It just really depends on what the challenge is that you're facing. That's what I assume I meant when if and when I said that. I say a lot of things, and it's funny because I'll get comments a lot of times on things like videos that I made that are 4 hours long, and the person will just respond to whatever I said, but not quote what I said. I'm like, dude, I've made over 1,000. I've probably made close to 2,000 videos over the course of my life on the internet. I don't remember what I've said in the last hour, let alone something I said on a video 4 years ago that you're commenting to. Because it'll be like, yeah, but I really don't like, I don't know what you're talking about. Any books? So yeah, I can recommend a lot of books. What kind of book are you looking for? Come to think of it, I think you did say that. Cool. Yeah, so if I said it, I think it's one of those crawl before you walk things. Like, don't try to become a billionaire if you've never made $100,000 in your life. You know, people are like, I need to be a billionaire by the time I'm 40. Like, have you ever made six figures? No. Okay, baby steps. That's anyone that just becomes a billionaire. That story probably doesn't have a happy ending. That's actually an ancient proverb that hastily gotten wealth often brings people to ruin. Let's see. Hello there says, a book you found most personally and profoundly impactful in the progress of your life and mindset. Wow, just one? Um, Make it more specific. What area of life? What area of life? Give me a specific area of your life that you'd like to change. Let's do it. Let me ask you a question, and then you respond to that. Then I'll give you a book. Andrew says, with that analogy, I'm facing down my wolf now. That's why I'm here. Right on, man. A book on money, so I can get. Okay, cool, cool. A book on money. Let's do. Um, I'm going to my money shelf. Let's do. Um, let's start with something light. Let's go a few lessons for investors and managers by Warren Buffett. Now, I want you, when you read the book, don't just take everything at surface level. Read into, because he's going to talk a lot about finances, investing, and how things work in companies. But there's a lot of principles in that book dealing with money and how to approach things. Like, the stock market is emotional, not rational. Principles like that you'll learn from that book. And I'm not just talking about you need to learn how to invest in the stock market. That's not what the book is going to help you do. But it's just going to help you with different mindsets about money. Let me see if I can give you a bonus. Um, I don't see it up there, but Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins is pretty decent. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Alyssa says, I enjoyed You Are a Badass with Money. That actually is a really good book. And Think and Grow Rich. I totally forgot about Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich is good too. See, four good books. There you go. I like this book by the author of um, Think and Grow Rich even better. That's another one of our secret books. Thank you, Bry man. It's my pleasure. Thank Alyssa too. She came up with that are You Are a Badass with Money is a great money mindset book. Totally. Jen's style is kind of 90s edgy. What do they call 90s tude? So it's like you kind of have to get past that part of her demeanor in her writing. I have no idea how she is in real life, but the way she writes comes across as like a 90s kind of attitude, yeah, way. But getting past that and listening to what she's actually. But if you're cool with that, like if you like that style, then you're good. But despite the style, a lot of the things that she talks about are spot on. Good stuff. Andrew says, I'm partial to The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey is another good one. And he has a podcast too that you can listen to where he shares a lot of good things. But remember too, hello there is the Good Life Playbook, which is way cheaper. Well, it's not way cheaper. It's like half. It's a little less than half the price. So I guess it is way cheaper. Way cheaper than the Secret Knowledge Society is the Good Life Playbook. Link in the description. That is $12 a month, right? And that's where you'll be able to get access to these videos after they are uploaded. Or after I take them off of YouTube, and then the private videos that we shoot will be there too. But you also get access to uh, the 69 Pillars of Success and anything we add to that down the road if we do the Unbreakable Confidence this course, um, sales crash course, social media master university. There's a bunch of stuff in there. 52 book challenge, which I'm actually still working on because I'm deciding what the last books in that series are going to be. No, shut my door and everybody go to bed. You have to be awake in like 6 hours. 7. All right, I can't do math. Um, and so there's that. But yeah, the Good Life Playbook will give you access to a lot of things that'll be very helpful to you, which will also help you get to the Secret Knowledge Society. Um, what else do we have? What advice would you give your 20 something self? Don't be afraid. Things tend to work out if you just stay in the game. Alyssa says, in that book you pointed to is awesome. It's deep but absurdly true. Cool. Any other questions? Great questions, by the way. Hello there. Dude, all right, enough. Go to bed. Children, yo. It's going to be hilarious waking these dudes up for school in the morning. They're all going to be like, okay, y'all want to keep playing these games. That's cool. It's going to be a rude awakening when I yank you out of that bed in the morning. All right. Any last minute questions before I get up out of here and go force children to go to sleep? Peach says, Brian, I'm going to watch this after it ends. So if I have questions, could I email you? Or did you stop doing? Did I stop doing what? And keep in mind, this will eventually be off of. I'll leave it up for a little bit so you can watch it, but it's all going to get taken down and put into the private course. But if you really want to connect with me, the best thing to do is just join the Secret Knowledge Society. Then you can come to the Facebook group and you can message me there as much as you want. But I mean, if you send me an email, I try to respond to everybody who sends me emails. I don't always get to, but I try to respond. So yeah, you got something for me, shoot it. Sorry, I'm trying to. There's someone that's having an issue with the Good Life Playbook. I'm trying to make sure I can help. Well, actually, the issue is not the program. The issue is on their end, but I'm trying to help them out while I wait for more questions to come in. Alyssa basically answered the question better than me. He said, "Is social media messaging and emails always open? I don't see him changing that." Andrew says, "None at this time, sir. We're going to get you out of this habit of calling me sir." As always, it's always good to talk to you, my brother. Yeah, I mean, simple answer to the question, Peach. If you shoot me an email, I try to get back to folks. If you write me a memoir that's 7 pages long, sometimes that's a little bit hard for me to respond to. And believe me, I've had people send me documents, like, because they couldn't, just like they didn't want they wanted to be able to save it and edit it, right? Because some people out there trying to handle life, man, it gets tough sometimes. So I have an Ask Me Anything on Facebook, and one of the questions somebody asked me is, would I marry myself? Ooh, no, because I don't want to marry a dude. But I don't think that's what she means by the question. Like, I think I should be reading more into the question than just taking it at face value. Oh, I'm not uncomfortable, bro. I'm not uncomfortable at all, man. There's no reason for you to have to call me sir, is the point. That is a name that I stopped using a long time ago. But if you're comfortable saying it, because I still talk to some of my old guys and they still call me sir, which I think is hilarious. This long after, it's like you don't have to call me that anymore. Like, I'm not in charge of anything anymore, bro. I'm just like you, man. I'm out here hustling to help people. But if you are cool with it, I'm cool with it, man. However you want to address me is fine. Your best partner is yourself, partner. Okay. Yeah, like I don't want to marry a dude, so no, I wouldn't marry me. Like, ugh. Like, I'm not my jam, bruh. Not. I would not want to have to go to bed with me every night. That imagery doesn't please me at all. But I think she means more like emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Would I marry somebody like me? Okay, I guess I would. Be easy for us. We'd get along really well if I married me. It wouldn't be a lot of fights. Check out Human Design Test. Definite new frontier in self knowledge. Okay, I'll give it a shot. Matter of fact, let me look that up now. Why do people always hum a tune when they're doing something on the phone or on a live broadcast? Human Design Test. Check it out. Create your free human design chart. Human design, learn how to read your body graph chart. There's a lot of different things here. I don't know. Human Design America, my body graph, complete guide to human design. This looks like some chakram type stuff, like in Hindu or Buddhist culture. Humandesign.net. I don't know which one of these I'm supposed to be clicking on. Alyssa says, I wouldn't marry myself. I know how annoying I am, and it takes a special kind of patience to handle. But wouldn't you be particularly skilled to handle you? Or I guess you're saying you would not be patient with yourself. Like, I'm an asshole who likes assholes. So I think he's great. I'm a lovable asshole, I guess. I do care about people. Andrew says, like I've said, you've got that respect for me. You've earned that title. Well, rock on, man. As you were. D. River says, yes. Would you marry yourself? Someone with your qualities? Sure. I mean, I did marry someone with my qualities, so yeah. What album playlist gets you focused to do work? I don't listen to music to do work. The only time I really listen to music these days is in the gym, and it's always heavy metal because I need to be focused, aggressive, and violent to get through my workouts. Um, Andrew says that's why your old Joes still call you sir too. I suspect. Yeah, I suspect too. I've just always truly believed that a true leader serves the led. Um, and so it was never uncomfortable for me. It was just hello there says I divorced myself. Oh, that's funny. All right, divorcing yourself. Hello there. Which one of these silly tests am I supposed to be taking? Is it the Get My Chart? In human design, the birthplace is only used to obtain the correct time zone. Is it the Jovian archive? Jovian, I don't know how to say it. Discover your design. Is that what I'm supposed to be doing on this Joomla website that's from 2005? Or this might be WordPress. And it wants a bunch of personal information. This looks like some horoscope stuff. This can't be it. I'm not taking a test to tell me I'm a freaking placatarius or whatever those things are called. D. River says, so I have recently become a psychology professor. We are studying consciousness. Ooh, con- wow, that's a heavy topic, man. What do you do if you don't listen to metal music? Wait, what? What do you do if you don't listen to music? Um, Uh, I don't. I don't know. Like I don't do anything instead of listening to music. I just don't listen to it usually outside of working out. If I'm on a date with my wife, sometimes I'll play chill hop because they have really cool like hip hop beats that are mellow and relaxed. Like if I'm just hanging out with my wife, and it's not like a lot of my wife's music I don't like, so I find music that I know she would like that I also like. Um, so I'll usually take over the music in the car and be like, "Oh," she'd be like, "Oh, I like this one." I was like, "I knew you would." But other than that, I don't really listen to a lot of music. Once you have a lot of kids, you just go into a bubble. At least I did. It's keeping up with pop culture. Like I don't know things that are happening. Apparently, Tyrese and The Rock are beefing. I heard that today. I don't care. I don't know why people are into that. But the same thing with entertainment. Like video games is about the only thing I keep up with because I still play them. Especially after my doctor told me I had to. Because he told me I had to relax. I'm not good at that. Um, but other than that, I don't really keep up with much. What heavy metal? I mean, let's start here. Uh, these dudes. um, I like Killswitch Engage, although I'm told that that's core and not metal, and I'm a pussy because I like it. Whatever. I can't keep up with all the narcissistic personality disorder people that have to crap on other people for liking what they like. Like, just whatever. I listen to Killswitch a lot in the gym because the lyrics are on point for keeping my mind in the right place. Um, there's some other stuff I listen to also that I'm drawing a blank on at the moment. I listen to like some of the songs from the Rocky soundtrack. Um, like No Easy Way Out is something I'll listen to like in a really hard part of my workout. Put in your date of birth. I thought it was woo woo BS at first, but the more you study it, the more scientifically sound it becomes. Jeffrey Sherman says, I like chill hop. Yeah, chill hop's cool, man. Every once in a while, I'll go back to like an old hip hop. Like I still listen. The Roots are my favorite band of all time, so I'll still listen to the Roots. I was listening to that the other day coming home from therapy. But like I don't listen to music to work. It's too distracting. I need to be focused if I'm working on something. But the only thing I'm really working on these days is getting my health squared away. So the more scientific, put in my date of birth. Yeah, no, I'm cool. I'll read about it. I don't need to take. But it's not asking for my date of birth. It's just asking for the date of today and where I live, so it can collect information about me that it can sell to Facebook, so Facebook can make better ads to sell me in a feed that I never read. Let's see. Um, Alyssa, a few months ago when I started my training, my instructor stated the rule was when in doubt, blurt it out. She was in front of the class saying there is no I in coach, so I blurted out, there is an I in coach. It's in the a hole. Oh, that's great. That's great. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Hello there says human design test will help with your health too, dude. A lot of videos on YouTube. Okay. I mean, I'll read into it. Create your free human design chart. Yeah, it's all the same stuff. Like nothing, none of it explains what the hell it is though before they start collecting your data. Here we go. It's at the way bottom. What is human design? Imagine being given a user manual for your life. How would this user manual help you? The manual would guide you on how to navigate life perfectly aligned with who you are, detailing your talents, skills, and potential. Give you a map to actualizing these. I'd like to know what they mean by actualizing. I hate when they use words like that. help you understand how you were designed to engage with the world. It does sound very woo woo. I usually try not to judge things offhand, but this sounds very Scientology, having a seance. But so does Myers Briggs. So Myers Briggs, like when you go on all the websites, it gets really kind of sing songy. Like you're a person who likes to be good to other people. Like yeah, it's in everyone's genetics except for psychopaths. It doesn't matter what type you are. The manual reveals how your inner guidance system. Yeah, this one I'm gonna have to suspend my very like I have a very skeptical brain. It's why I was drawn to science because I don't like these hyper spiritual terminology. It's like people in church saying he was anointed. I remember I had to ask somebody what the hell anointed meant. Like, and I know like what it translates into. But I was like, what the hell are y'all talking about with all this anointing that everyone seems to have? He was anointed to sing. What does that even mean? Like, use words that people understand. That are in alignment with your authentic nature and based on your personal authority. Okay. Like I said, I wouldn't judge it without seeing more. I don't like the way the description of it's written, but that's just that could just be a style personality issue. D. Reaver says, "Do you have any suggestions on websites that can help students understand themselves?" I remember you mentioned, yeah. So Hexaco is right here on the screen, and there's a link in the description to take the Hexaco. Hello there has recommended the human design test. I think it's called human design, which I'm looking at now. I haven't taken it because it wants a bunch of information. But I mean, it's not crazy information. Let's just put. Let's see what happens. Let's put my name in there. What's today? Today's what, the 30th? Oh, still the 29th. It is the 29th of October. It is 2019. This is the bonus content for all the people watching this after the fact. The hour is 11:04. Oh, it's 11. The hour is 04. This website uses cookies. The country is Lithuania. All right. The city is Stankonia. My time of birth? I don't know what my time of birth is. This is freaking ridiculous. It sounds like something my mom would know. I don't know what hour I was born. This is clearly not a test marketed towards men. I'm hitting the button, but it's not processing. Oh, this field has to be a number. I'm sorry. We'll say I was born at this time. All right. Let's see. They use stars in the picture here, so I know there's some astrology tied to this, which is immediately going to turn me off. It actually thinks Stankonia is a place. Yeah, this is a little bit too woo woo for me, yo. But if it's working for you, I say do it. Because I can tell this is also trying to take me on a sales funnel. Like they want me to download the free book and then I'll get a bunch of emails to buy a thing that'll give me more details, which is fine. I'm not against that. I mean, that's business. Um, but yeah, if it's working for you, rock on with it. I got your back. I don't think it's going to help me too much. Let's see. Alyssa recommends self-help audiobooks and podcasts. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and seeing what resonates with you. Wrong Peach says the more I look at other stuff, it looks exactly like horoscopes, just with way more details to make it look more. Hey, boss lady, what's up? Say hello to the stream. They're wearing the Q&A. All right, sorry about that, friends. Um, had to talk to my lady. Wrong Peach says the more I look at stuff, it's very similar to horoscopes. Yeah, it did seem kind of horoscopy. There are a lot of other details that when you get your readout, I turned it off. But it doesn't explain it. Like you're supposed to download the book and then go through it. Um, I don't know. Like a lot of the terminology they use is very ambiguous and not something that's well defined. And I typically don't like things that are that like one of the reasons why I think, and this is just my thoughts. I don't know if I'm right. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you guys I'm the freaking authority on this stuff. This is just my experience and what I've done and what I've seen and what I've studied. And when I look at Myers Briggs, one of the reasons why it catches on versus something like Hexaco is that the people that crafted it and then the people that came after the fact and wrote books and fleshed out more of what Carl Jung studied and wrote, they're very good storytellers, and we relate to storytelling. When someone tells a story that we can see ourselves as the character in the story, we're like, yeah, that's me. Right? And when you go on any of the Myers Briggs websites, they're very good about that. Horoscopes are very similar in that it's, oh, you're a person who fill in the blank. And it's like, oh, that does relate to me. But when you break those things down scientifically, what they found in some of the studies is you can give somebody a personality test and then in the room secretly hand them all their results. And most people, when they read the this is you, they'll have a tendency to be like, yeah, I see myself in a lot of this. And one of the tests they did was they gave everyone the test and then they handed everybody the results. And, a very high percentage of the people in the room were like, yeah, this is totally me. And then what they realized at the end of this experiment that they ran was everybody got the exact same results. So it's like some of it's just really good storytelling and helps us kind of put ourselves into the character versus looking at things. One of the things I've liked about Hexaco, which is certainly not perfect in any sense. I mean, I told you guys some of the issues I had with some of the language in here as I was reading it. Um, it's it's very much things that can be measured, right? If you have these responses to the fearfulness category, it can within reason say you probably deal with a certain amount of fearfulness. Right? And so when tests like that or with horoscopes and astrology, it gets. And by the way, one of the things I pointed out about Hexaco that you'll read in the book is that they went to great lengths to make sure that the terminology they were coming up with was cross cultural. So there was no cultural bias. Like everybody deals with, for example, sincerity. And they were very meticulous about making sure, well, does sincerity come up in China and Africa and all? Yes. Those were things that in their ongoing studies that they found to be true. And that's why I said give the book a shot, because you'll see more about it, and then you can decide, is this something that I want to incorporate into my self-awareness bin because it helps me? Like Hello There was saying, uh Hello There is getting a lot of help from human design. Well, great. Then who am I to say it's good or it's great or it's woo woo? I'm not the authority on that. If it's helping an individual get to a place in their life where they're experiencing happiness and fulfillment, I am the last person who's gonna, oh, that's false or that's fraudulent or that's, like, I know people who live by Myers Briggs and they get a ton out of it. Then rock on. Everything that I share with you guys is really, it's ideas and suggestions and thoughts. It's not, this is the gospel, this is the way you have to do it. And I'm very rarely going to come at anything I discuss from that perspective. Right? Like Hello There said, to each their own. Yeah, 100%. If this thing's helping you, I'm not going to tell you to change a thing, because I don't want to mess up the systems and tools you're using that are actually helpful for you, right? Like, even if I was coaching somebody, I wouldn't be like, "Oh, that test is wrong. Don't take that." No, wait a minute. If they're getting something good out of the test and it's helping them, regardless of whether or not it can be tied exactly to some exact science, which none of them can, by the way, guys, I'm willing to hear them out. If they're getting some benefit out of it, great. I just think these kind of turf wars we have over the things we believe in, just it's always counterproductive and counterintuitive. It's never helpful to try to force somebody to see, oh, this is my thing and you should do this instead. Like, no, all I'm doing is presenting things that you can use. If you take this test and it does nothing for you, man, that's fine. It's totally fine. I want you to find the thing that's going to help you get to your, because who am I? I'm not inside your brain. I'm not there and understanding the way that you uniquely process information. Michelle Yake says it's on the birth certificate, but I think most people don't. Yeah, I don't have my birth certificate. I don't know where that is. I don't give a chainsaw. Let's see. Michelle says the Hexaco test is interesting. I can see areas where I need to work, and that's the other thing I like about the test is it's not making you a type. Right? It's saying here's kind of where you exist today. What do you want to do with this information? Oh, I should probably work on my perfectionism. It's high to a point where it's giving me some challenges, right? And then you can take the information and make adjustments versus what I see a lot of times with tests like the Myers-Briggs or even the DISC test. Let me stop picking on Myers-Briggs. Tests that try to type people, they'll use the results of the test as a crutch or as an excuse. Like if I hear an introvert, if I keep hearing people who call themselves introverts say, "Well, I can't talk to my people in my company because I'm an introvert." Get over yourself. That has nothing to do with being introverted. Yes, it takes energy to talk to people, but you're a leader, so effing be one. The fact that you are less extroverted is not an excuse for not leading your people properly. And there are plenty of quote unquote introverts who find a way to do it and don't hide behind introversion as their shield for, I don't want to deal with people, because you probably have some other issues underlying that aren't just related to being an introvert, right? No more than an extrovert just saying, "Well, I just blurt out whatever I think because I'm an extrovert." That's a stupid excuse for you not giving useful information to people because you're an extrovert and blurting out, you know? So it's like, I don't want helpful tools to become tools of oppression either, where it's like I have to fit this mold that I've created for myself. That's one of the things that concerns me is people will say, "Well, or people will send me messages as a, blank, 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 blank. I like, well, you don't have to preface it with what personality type you are. You feel a certain way, and that's meritable, regardless of your personality type. Let's actually talk about solving some of your root issues, which may not even be related to personality. It may be values or limiting beliefs that have nothing to do with your personality. Right? It has more to do with your internal value system." Let's see. Hello There says it's quite a new thing. It'll be common knowledge eventually, hopefully. And I saw that you said it's free on YouTube. Okay, I'll see if I can look more into it. Brian Chambers says, I think this is why, and I think you might had said this in your past videos, that you most likely had taken down, is to try out different personality tests instead of, yeah, I say take as many as you can get access to. Some of them will be good, some of them will be not as good. I definitely recommend that people take a bunch of different tests to see, because like people like the color test in some cases. I forgot what colors I am. Some people like the Enneagram test. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's a lot of information in terms of trying to piece together which one am I, and okay, but I'm also kind of this one too. So it's a little bit harder to follow, but I got something out of it. Michelle Yake says, "Are my earbuds out, or did we all lose audio?" Jeffrey Sherman says, "You have such a wisdom, Bryant. Your extroverted thinking seems very balanced. That's the kind of trait function integration we should all strive for." Oh, thank you. I think that's probably a little bit more praise than I deserve, but I appreciate it. I'm working on it. Alyssa says, we were talking about screening evaluations in the program. They immediately steered us away from DISC and Myers Briggs. Yeah, and Myers Briggs is kind of, it's starting to run its course. I mean, it's one of the key psychometric things that you can get certified in. So there's actually financial reasons why Myers Briggs has stuck around so much. There are literally consulting firms that use it to sell the test and consultation to the government and different organizations. So there's financial motivation for keeping Myers Briggs so prevalent, because there's so many people that they've paid thousands of dollars to train to teach it. When you probably could have just watched a couple of YouTube videos and gotten some semblance of that education. Maybe not quite as detailed as because I've been through certification courses before too, and they get very detailed, more than what you'll probably find on YouTube. But you know, I am okay with people using those tests as long as they're using them as kind of a, what's the best way to say it? A reflection versus saying this is who I am, because the who you are is more than just your personality, right? And that's where it gets dangerous. If you're using Myers Briggs, you're in. Someone earlier said they were ENFP. I think that was hello there. Like, okay, cool. All right, so your temperament is NF. That is the Apollon temperament. So there's some things that I can deduce just from hearing that information. Like they process information using intuition. They're more comfortable in that space. It doesn't mean that they don't use sensing. It just means intuition comes more natural. And they make decisions based on people more so than on outcomes. It doesn't mean they always make a decision based on people over outcomes, but their preference is that. And that's really the biggest takeaways from the Myers Briggs. That's where it can be useful when you start trying to bend people into, oh, you should never be an entrepreneur because you're an ISTJ. I will find an exception to every one of those rules when you start trying to stereotype people. Right? It's ridiculous. Right? Or like my favorite ones are like trying to Myers Briggs people who have been dead for 100 years before the test even did. Oh, Hitler was a, like, why are you typing Hitler? What? I've literally seen that. Like, what? Like Thomas Jefferson was an INFJ. Like, okay. All right. If that makes you feel better. Sure. Let's go with that. Let's see. Jeffrey Sherman. Uh-oh. I lost the ball here. Also, I know what time I was born too. And well, hey, good on you, man. I don't know. I know what day I was born. I mean, the date. I don't know what day it was. And I certainly don't know what time it was. Michelle Yake says, my clients are more open to hearing things. If I use metaphors and storytelling, especially, and that's there's actually something in our brain that happens when we hear stories, and like it's at a biological level. Uh, and so 100% humans are made to share stories. It's how we've learned to survive for a very long time. And it's, by the way, like if you look up the highest grossing movies of all time, it's all the superhero movies. That doesn't surprise me at all. It's why the Bible is one of the most popular books in the world, because it's a story about a superhero. Jesus. Right? And there was a bunch of superheroes before him. There was Joshua and Moses and David. There was Enoch. There was Adam. There was Eve. There was Esther. Like there was what's his name? Uh, Samson. Right? The book is full of hero stories. It's the hero's journey. But yeah, we respond to storytelling. And I think the people who did that on the internet did a great job of storytelling around the Myers Briggs. Unfortunately, they did so good a job that people have kind of started to deal with it almost at a religious level, and that's where I think it starts to get a little bit dangerous when it gets so dogmatic, and we're being very dogmatic about things that don't we can't say are true for every single human being that we come in contact with. JS is right, admirable, extroverted thinking. Stank on you is like stank on you. Jeffrey Sherman says not being able to talk to people is not a characteristic of introversion. Yeah, tell me about it. But you can't imagine how many people I've had use that. Oh, I'm an introvert. That's like that. I know introverts that are way more social than me as an almost max extrovert. Like that's don't use this thing as a crutch, guys, because you have some social anxiety. That's not social anxiety is not the equivalent of lacking a lot of extroversion. Those are different things. Certainly they could be correlated, but I have friends that are way more extroverted than me who are crazily socially, they have social anxiety to the point where they get sweats. It's hard for them to socialize, and they're totally extroverted. So, yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at. Wrong piece says, Bryant, are you referring to the true color test? I think so. Took that, I think, like 2 years ago. I took that test. I don't remember what my colors were. Josh Quinn says, I generally, for now, stick with Myers Briggs personality assessment, Enneagram, and Hexaco. Cool. I know Forbes magazine that ELI that I'm being trained in was ranked 3 for assessments that are great for leadership roles. Awesome. Glad to hear that. Josh Quinn says, oh, I forgot to mention the Greek archetypes as well when it comes to gender. Okay. Hitler's mustache was clearly an INTP. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's a great joke. Uh, Broken Subas is mind running through your analysis of selling religious items. I'd want to provide beautiful inspiration, but heard selling it is bad spiritually. You're more well read than I, if you know any press. So I don't know that that comes down to my well readness. When I have sold things, I just have a really simple rule. Okay. If I'm going to charge money for a thing, my 100% rule is that what the person is getting out of it has to be worth more to them than the price that I'm charging. And by the way, that's being a good salesman too, right? Like people buy when they think they're getting a deal. Like when I rushed out and bought, do I still have it on my desk? No, I think I burned it. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I knew that game was worth $80 on the market, but GameStop sold it to me for like 19, so I bought it immediately because I thought I was getting a deal, right? Because I knew I was getting something that's worth $80 on the market, but I got it for 20. Will it stay at $80? No, it'll probably drop somewhere down to around the 40s by the time 15 years from now. But I still would have doubled the investment, right? So the point there is, I don't necessarily look at me charging money because you could argue, like one of my doctors that I see says what I'm doing is very much a spiritual service, even though you wouldn't attribute the Good Life Playbook to a spiritual program. But she sees it that way. She's like, that's a very powerful ministry that you have. And I said, well, that's high praise. Thank you. I'm working to try to make it great for people. And I'm okay with charging money for something that's actually benefiting you and giving you value in a way that gives you some level of value, whether it's monetary or otherwise, on the back end. So, for example, somebody went through my 69 Pillars program for free, even though that program is also in one of my pay programs. It's still available for free right here on YouTube. And they emailed me to say, and you've heard me say this 100 times because you're around me almost every day. Um, they email me and say, "Hey, I increased my income by $20,000 this year because of the things that I learned from you." I'm totally okay selling that program. If you made $20,000 extra in a year using the principles that I taught in a program, I'd be totally justified in selling that program from anywhere from 100 to $500 or more. Right? In fact, if I'm using my 100 times rule, let's do some math here. I would be okay selling that program. Let's take 20,000 divided by. Yeah, I could totally see myself selling that program for $200 because I know people applying the principles in there could potentially turn around a 100 times their investment. And I would be totally okay with that. Now, not everybody who goes through that course makes an extra $20,000. Some of that's, some people are using it for different reasons, but I'm okay with people charging money as long as the person gets what they are hoping to get out of it from a value perspective. And it's not just monetary. Maybe that someone learned how to fully go through like my 5 pillars of self-awareness program, and bam. Now that I knew that, that helped me. Like I had one of the first people that went through the program when I first started it, before it was called the Good Life Playbook. Um, they landed their dream job by going through the lessons that I taught. It was awesome. That's great. That's worth, whatever I was charging at the time. I think it was really, really cheap back then. You know, so if it's $12 a month, I'm hoping that, my goal is that people are going to get $1,200 a month worth of value out of it. And that doesn't mean they're going to necessarily make an extra $1,200 a month. They could, but it means that something in their life should be able to feel that valuable. That's my rule. What you don't want to do, um, and one of the things I actually do to shoot myself in the foot when I'm selling is I'm very honest about the limitations and the flaws, stuff that you're supposed to leave out. The stuff they say at the end of a prescription commercial. Prednisone is known to cause, you know, sexual nightmares and blah 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 blah. Like I'm very adamant about making sure people know what they're getting into, and I don't use a lot of the marketing tactics that I've seen other people use. Like I don't do a lot of the attraction marketing things that you're supposed to do. I don't pitch. I don't always, like, one of the things you're told to do in sales is lead with the rewards. You're taught to, hey, if you do this program, you're going to get a nice house and a library just like mine. I lead with the pain. Like, hey, you want to win? Get ready to struggle. Like, how many people are signing up for that? But I do it on purpose because I want people to have the, like, I want to destroy the illusion that there's some easy system or formula you can just apply to your life, and then all of a sudden your life gets awesome. Like, I got this helicopter in my backyard because of these 3 principles. One, be awesome. Like, just no, not doing it. I lead with, hey, you want to have a great life? You ready to bleed? Let's go. And that's a very military way of doing it, which doesn't always work in sales. But I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay. Like, I've made my bed. I'm okay with getting less sales because I don't use the type of marketing that would attract someone who takes a more simple-minded approach to the way they're going to invest in themselves. I want I want people who have the potential and the will to become elite at what they do. And that's very much a smaller subset of the millions of people who could potentially be interested in something that I'm doing. All right. So hopefully that made sense. That was a really long answer. Alyssa says, in coaching, you simply listen uh, to what is behind the story and ask them questions that requires using both sides of the brain. That's how you get the breakthrough moments. Amen to that. Amen to that. Hello there says, looking forward to checking these things out once the stream's over. Mr. Chambers, what other practical thing do you do to halt fear apart from breath control? Well, a lot of times I don't halt fear. I just act despite the fact that I'm experiencing fear. A lot of times I don't focus a lot of my energy on the fear. I focus on what I'm trying to accomplish. And I just, one of a pastor acquaintance of mine years ago did a great talk. I think he did it on Facebook or YouTube, one of them, and he said his sermon was called "Do It Afraid." You know, a lot of times I'm not worried about halting fear. I'm worried about focus on what I'm trying to accomplish, and sometimes I'm doing it with a little bit of fear. It's just the way it goes. If I'm controlling my breathing, I'm actually trying to control my physical nervous system so that the fear doesn't cause my nervous system to go haywire to the point where I can't act. The breathing is more of a physiological change. And certainly it does change what's going on in the mind, don't get me wrong. And it aids with being able to control your thinking. But also, one of the ways I halt fear is by trying to focus on what I'm trying to accomplish versus focusing on the fear or the object of the fear. Tony Robbins has a great exercise for that, where it's close your eyes and picture the thing that you're afraid of, and then picture the thing that you want that you're trying to get away from, or replace with the thing you're afraid of. Now, in your mind, make the thing that you're afraid of really, 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 really small, and make the thing that you want bright and vivid and huge. It's a great exercise in being able to control the way your mind processes the things that you're experiencing in life. And I'm kind of oversimplifying it. It takes him a little bit longer to flesh that out. Um, but he has tons of YouTube videos where he can take you through that exercise, which I think are great. Jeffrey Sherman says, "Oh, I wasn't reading chat for a few minutes." Hey. Alyssa says, "This sounds dark, but seriously, some warnings should not be necessary. Let's take them off and let natural selection happen. Seriously. Eating Tide Pods? Wait. Where did that come from? Did somebody talk about eating Tide Pods? Or are you watching television and just blurting out something you're experiencing?" Yeah, no, I'm with you. Chris Porter had a great joke about that. He says we need to just let natural selection do its job. He's like, take do not eat off paint. He said if your dumb ass wants to eat paint, have yourself a Sherman Williams Christmas. He said feed it to your dumb ass kids too. It's like we don't want none of you here. Uh, that's awesome. Kira says introversion simply refers to where you gain the majority of your energy from your inner thoughts and perceptions of the outer world, people and things. It is on a spectrum and not social anxiety. Correct. I agree with you. Secure H, great to see you here. Okay, they're all talking to each other. Hello there, says do it afraid. Well said. Acceptance is key. Thank you. Were you as skeptical about Myers Briggs as you were about human design? Um, Interesting question. Um, I mean, I'm kind of naturally skeptical about most things, just in general. I guess what I'm being skeptical about is the first glance. So no, the first time I took a Myers Briggs test, it was in a professional setting. It was an actual test that I had to take on paper. This was before the wasn't before the internet existed, but it was certainly before the test was available online. Um, and a lot of things were discussed. I related to some of it, didn't. But I'm not a person that like I wouldn't even go as far as to say is like I would just totally dismiss the human design test without looking more deeply into it. I just didn't want to go through the legwork to get to the actual information. That's my bigger issue. I'm skeptical of most things. I think um, but I also try to keep an open mind. Like when I've taken Myers Briggs test, like I don't see it as this I am the ENTJ and damn it, getting the T-shirt and this is me. Like I just think, and when we get to the openness part of the Hexaco test, I'm a lot more open minded to well, there's some nuance to this, obviously, and some of the things that I read about my personality type don't apply to me, but that's okay. Like, of course, it's not going to apply to me. This is a fallible test based on the writings of a genius who was trying very hard to articulate something that's extremely complicated, which is our conscious awareness of ourselves. That is a hard thing to wrap the head around, and we're all doing the best we can with it. So, am I skeptical about the human design? Sure, but no more than I would be Myers Briggs. My bigger issue with the human design is I don't like it gave me a picture with it looked like a map of like a Final Fantasy game. It was like a mini map. It had all this stuff on it that I had to download. Like I'm not going through all that. It's just like the value that was pitched on the website was not high enough to make me want to go through the effort of having to go through all of their stuff to get to the bottom of whatever they're talking about. Um, but that's not just because of skepticism. That's just or maybe it is. Maybe that is. Maybe the answer to your question is yes. I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting question. I'm not sure how to answer it. Trying to talk my way through it. Don't take it if you're allergic. I get you. Better to find out in your own time rather than on live stream. You will be pleasantly surprised, I can assure you. Yeah, maybe. You're right. And I'm open minded enough. Like, even when I'm skeptical about something, I am open minded enough. And I'm a very curious person. So I want to know more about, okay, this thing, like offhand, when they start about your internal navigation system, I'm like, what the hell is that? That's not something they talk about in biology. It's clearly you made that up, which is fine. But it's like those kind of things turn me off because it sounds very much like a cult meeting, you know, manifesto, which it may totally not be. But it's clearly written to attract people who have this very kind of, I'm a spiritual, clairvoyant empath. Like, gotcha, rock on. I don't go around using that type of terminology. And I don't fault people that do. I just don't know what it means in the context of you. So whatever it means to you, rock on. Um, those terms are way too open ended for me to start labeling myself with them. At least the way I see it. So it's a lot of the language where they were describing it. It clearly was meant to attract, I think, people who use that kind of language and are more. I don't really know the word for it because I hate to say they're super deep because I'm deep about stuff at times too. But it did not strike me as something that catered to my very pragmatic way of looking at things. People who think it's a cult are better off without it. Probably. I haven't done the Hexaco test yet, says Kira, but I have bookmarked the site. I will take it tonight or tomorrow. Interested to see what it's all about. Cool. Wrong Piece says, Bryant, building on top of your skepticism, what are your thoughts on certain topics within the Bible? I don't know. What topics specifically? The language could definitely be less hyper spiritualized. Yeah, hyper spiritualized. That's a great way. Even though that's an ambiguous term, like that resonates with me. Like it's very hyper spiritual. Is the term that doesn't really mean anything, but that's the best way I can describe. It's clearly meant to attract the kind of hypers. I'm a spiritual essence being. Like, okay, that's great. I don't know what any of that means, and I don't need to know what it means. It's cool, but I'm not attracted to that. Like the marketing, it's not written to attract someone who's looking at things very pragmatically. Like I remember I was working a bomb situation years ago, and this woman's like, "I already know it's not a bomb." I was like, "How do you know?" "I'm a clairvoyant." I was like, "All right, well, you're still not going. We're still not letting you come through here, Miss Clairvoyant. I know it's not a bomb. It's not. That's great, but your clairvoyance does not give you access to walk past here and get blown the f up, just in case you're wrong, right?" So it's like it was that the site was written for her. I could tell. Like I've heard a lot of that kind of language before. But again, I don't offhand judge it. Like I would if I was interested in it and wanted to jump through the hoops of downloading their book and all that, I'd be like, check it out. Eh. But at first glance, it's not something that's interesting to me. And honestly, I wouldn't say it needs to be less of what it is, because if that's who they're trying to attract, then rock on. They don't need to change it to attract people like me. I'm probably not their target audience. May cause you to sleepwalk in the middle of the night and drive your car. I've never heard that one. Is there one that actually says that? May cause you to sleepwalk and drive your car? Jeez. Jeffrey Sherman says, I don't think the test or the archetypes are that far off from actual real people in Myers Briggs. I think people just quickly make the leap from typology to stereotypology. Yes, I agree. They say you're this kind of person or that kind of MBTI can't tell you that. People try to use it for things it cannot say. Yes, I've been saying that for years. That people try to use the test for something it's not meant to do. At the core, it helps you understand your temperament, helps you understand how you process information and how you make decisions. All you really need to take away from it. All the other, I will never data, like, all right, I'm not listening anymore. I'm leaving. If you're making marriage decisions based on the Myers Briggs, all I'll say is good luck. Good luck. Was the clairvoyant right or wrong? They were right. But, I mean, you know, if I were a person that didn't believe in that stuff, I could very easily say 100 times out of 100, it's never a bomb. But that wasn't the point. It was they have to check it just to be safe. Like a dog could have guessed, woo, it's not a bomb. Like it didn't take a clairvoyant to know it wasn't a bomb. Point. Sleep driving, LOL, is safer than sleep flying. Wow, that would be awesome. Alyssa says intuition is powerful if you know how to tap into it and use it. Ron Peach says the end times. I'm pretty sure it's not the actual chapter title or section. And Genesis. These are the only ones that come to mind first. Yeah, I mean that's still very very broad. I mean, am I skeptical about things that are in the Bible? If that's your question, sure. But but even that is a very nuanced thing. Like I am skeptical as to whether or not Adam and Eve were a real thing or was this a person a long, 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 long time ago trying to describe the essence of the creative energy behind everything that is with a very limited human brain. And the best way he could do it was in a mythological story about two people, right? Because everyone could relate to that. I don't know. Like, I don't know if Adam and Eve were real people. I'm kind of inclined to think no. It's a story, but who knows? I wasn't there. So, yeah, when it comes to the Bible, certain things, but it doesn't have to be real for other things to, be believable or whatever. Better safe than sorry, clairvoyant dogs. Yes, that is an actual commercial. That is terrifying. Michelle says, speaking of clairvoyance, a woman walked up to my car at the gas station and she said, your car smells like you have a belt that needs to be replaced. I resisted saying, if the smell of my car is bothering you, stop smelling it. I behaved. I just said, thank you. Place your belt, Michelle. She knows karate. Yeah, and like, listen, I am not saying that clairvoyance is not a thing. I don't know enough about it to judge it, period. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I was just using that as an example. That woman struck me as the target audience for the way that website was written, using a lot of ambiguous terms that are probably not easy to define because it's very hard to describe our psyche and our personality and our spirituality, right? And we fish for things that can help us articulate it. Like for that website to work on a person like me, it needed to tell me, okay, you're going to take this test and we're going to evaluate these things about you. And here is the methodology we use to get there, right? But instead, it's like, find your inner you with them. Like, all right, this sounds like a Oil of Olay commercial. Like it clearly was one, and I hate to make things about gender, but I imagine that when the marketers made that website and they made their avatar, it was a woman. That's what marketers do, right? It was probably a 20 something to a middle aged white woman that they built the marketing for. Just like music, for example, is targeted at 12 to 14-year-old white females, even hip hop, right? That's the demographic all of the A&Rs and the hit makers are trying to target when they make music. And I think that website was targeted at a very specific type of person that's not as, you know, like just give me the bottom line. What do I need to know to take this test? Alyssa says clairvoyance is intuition through vision. Cool. There are four types of intuition. Josh Quinn says, I have to get going. Good night, Josh. Have a good one, man. Hello there says, are you a musician, Bry? I feel you play drums or something. I was a musician once upon a time, yes. I sucked at the drums. I did play them. Not well. I was a vocalist. Broken Suba. But I've also said that several times on different videos. I don't think that's new news. Broken Suba says, I figured intuition is just information your subconscious picks up on too fast for you to realize. I spend so much time in my head. I need my intuition to keep me from walking into oncoming traffic. You pegged him. He has in the past been in music. Yep. Yeah, I talked about being in fact, I got started on YouTube because of I got started on YouTube because I had to shut down what I was doing in music because I had a brand new kid and I couldn't drive halfway across the world to get to band practice and or go to shows halfway across the world for $200 a show. Although I was in a band that got paid, which is more than I could say for most bands. I was getting checks, which was awesome. I didn't even expect to get paid. I just wanted to play. You got any music released? I did, but I took it down because it sucked. But no, I don't have any more plans to do music. It's funny. One of my cousins, who's very deep in the music industry, is trying to get me back into it. I just told her I was like, I can't. The only part I liked about music was performing. I never enjoyed recording and making songs for records. It was a freaking nightmare. I love being on stage. All right, you guys got any more questions for me? This I love the Q&A asking me if I was a drummer and all that stuff. But I'm going to bed if y'all don't have any more course related questions or something I can help you with. Last call. Clear cognizance. Wow. That's a heavy one. Yeah, it's been great. Hello there. Thank you so much for being here. It's really good getting to interact with you. Yeah, you guys are awesome, man. Thank you for being here. Thanks, Krook. You're awesome, brother. Rook. Love that name. Clairaudient. Sweet. Kira H says that has been my take also, that some of the Bible stories like Adam and Eve are written as stories from the point of view of the times. Could be. Wrong Pete says, Alyssa, where could I learn about these different types of intuition? All the Claires are buoyant. Michelle Yake says, hello there. It's all becoming very unclear. Jeffrey is clairaudient. Alyssa is claircognizant. Audio, visual, cognizant. All right, last call. I'm going to wait a couple more seconds just to make sure there's no burning desire questions. This is I learned through a webinar. Awesome. All right, friends. We're going to call it right there. Thanks so much for being here. I know we went way over time. I meant to be done by 10 o'clock, but clearly did not happen. Thank you so much for all your great questions and great discussion. I learned a ton tonight just by hanging out with you guys. Listening to Hello There, Wrong Peach, Jeffrey Sherman, Michelle Yake, Alyssa, hello there, Kira. Josh Quinn was here. Shouts out to Josh Quinn. Let's see, who else did I miss? That was pretty much all of us that kind of handled the discussion tonight. So, Peach, shouts out to everybody that was here. It's always such a pleasure to hang with you guys. Um, just a reminder, uh, I'll leave this video up. I'll try to give you 24 hours if you want to go back and watch it before we take it down and put it in the private program. And then the rest of the videos will be, and just for clarity's sake, because I know I got some questions about different things, the program that this series is going into is our Good Life Playbook, not the Secret Knowledge Society. That's a whole separate private group of people. It's almost like a mastermind group, going back to what Hello There asked me earlier, where we're putting together people who are trying to legitimately make some positive change in the world. Um, and the Good Life Playbook is where all the courses and stuff are, which, by the way, people in the Secret Knowledge Society are automatically put into the Good Life Playbook. They get access to all that stuff. So those of you who are Good Life Playbook VIP members, I will live stream the next section or the next part of this series where we will cover, at the very least, we'll cover openness to experience in the Hexaco, and then if we have time, we'll just go ahead and knock out altruism because it's a little bit shorter. It's a very simple part of the test that goes pretty quickly. And we'll do that on a live call, similar to the way we did the VIP calls, where we can actually talk to one another. Alyssa, I think that'll be a good time for us to discuss the niche part of you building your business, where we can kind of flesh that out, because the Q&A is always the most valuable part of any of these talks. It's where I learn a ton, getting to listen to you guys. I get to be taught that there's 4 types of intuition: clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairaudience, and whatever the 4th one is, because I don't know. I need to go look that up. I got some more learning to do. Um, yeah, Jeffrey Sherman, thank you. But yeah, so I'll leave this up because I think it was Peach says she was trying to watch this after the fact, so I'll give you some time to watch it before I take it down, just as a thank you for being here. And then if you want to get access to it after that, and then forevermore and the new stuff, go ahead and join. If you want to be on the next live call, definitely get into the VIP program. Just know that that one's quite a bit more expensive than the $12 a month. And if you have questions about that, we can talk about it over email. Other than that, I think that covers everything. I don't know what the next series we might do here in public. I'm thinking through that because I have a leadership course that I'm putting together, like the basics of leadership, understanding, um, and it's going to come very, very heavily from my perspective of having to lead people in one of the hardest places in the world, which is combat, obviously. Um, and in business, believe it or not, business is oftentimes even harder than combat was. So I'm kind of working through what I might do next live. For those of you that don't listen to my podcast on iTunes or Android or Spotify or any of those places, but you prefer to watch it or listen to it on YouTube, my editor Tony is now uploading videos to YouTube. He's out there getting after it. I think he's up to episode 35 on YouTube, and I think we're on episode 80 something on the live podcast. Like yesterday, I just uploaded the why your burning bush moment is never coming, which is a really powerful talk that I gave about understanding your life's purpose. Um, so definitely keep up with my podcast. It's called the Brian Chambers Movement. Pretty much anywhere you want to listen to a podcast, it's there. You can catch me on Facebook. Is usually the best place to get me, even better than email. Um, but email's good too. Um, I'm on Twitter if you guys prefer that. I'm at the second letter. The second letter is B. It's just all one word. The second letter. I'm on Instagram, but I don't really use it that much. But I do check my messages there if you want to. If that's your preferred platform. I'm on Twitch. Bryant Chambers on Twitch. I do live streams like this way more frequently. Just kind of let your hair down. Hangouts. You can catch me there. What have I missed? I'm working on a texting system that my VIPs have access to now where you can actually send text messages to me and we can text back and forth. I will probably unleash that on the Good Life Playbook folks too, the non VIPs at some point. We'll see. So, a lot of things to be a part of. Um, Kira says, I really respect and admire you, sir. Oh, man, thank you. My honor to serve you guys. I have been given, you guys got to know, like, if you ever want to know what my motivation is, like, what makes me come on here, I've been given so much. I've been given a life that I didn't deserve. In other words, meaning I didn't do anything. Sorry, I deserve it because I'm a human being, and every human being I believe deserves, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But I didn't do anything to deserve the people that are in my life. I didn't do anything to earn that. And so I think it's partially my duty to give back at least some portion of a lot of the great things that have been given to me by mentors like my dad and my uncles, my brothers, my first spiritual mentors, a guy named Eric, my life coach that I have now, um, my business coaches, people like Tony, who's a brother of mine, some of my other friends who don't come on these streams, but guys that you don't hear about, guys that I grew up with and stuff like that. So, and clairsentience is the last one. Cool. I'll look those up and get educated on. Um, Krug says, thanks, B and Tony, for putting the podcast on YouTube. It's easier for me to share your videos. People I talk to find YouTube links more accessible. Okay, that's good to know. So, if you're on iPhone or any device, iTunes finally lets you play the podcast from the website. So you don't have to have iTunes. You can just play it right from your phone. I don't know why it took them so long to do that, but Apple. Ugh. Anyway, so yeah, I just think it's my responsibility to give back because I've been given so much. So it's my honor to serve you all. I pray that you got something good out of this. And if you don't hear me say this, because the internet loves to take things out of context and oversimplify everything, take everything I say on these videos with a grain of salt. Everything, right? I am learning just like all of you, right? I may have more experience than you. I may have more years doing things than you, but don't take anything I say at face value. Challenge it, right? Because I challenge my thoughts all the time. A lot of times these talks are me even working through my own thoughts, and it may not necessarily be what I've landed on as my belief. It's just where I'm at the time. So take it all with a grain of salt and pit it against your thoughts and your values. Keep what works, toss out the rest. Okay? I love you guys dearly. Remember that we are stronger than I. I'll see you soon.